Chapter 160. You mean the one who wrote on the wall? Daphne and Pansy, who were smart, quickly caught on to what Draco was talking about. Exactly. Draco nodded. I know you are not like others, but I will say it just in case, don't look for it. The basilisk won't likely attack you during the night in the dorm, and also make sure to go home for Christmas no matter what. Always hang out in groups and make sure to carry a mirror with you to look back at, in case you suspect someone or something following you. Petrification is much better than death. Theodore added from the side. Stop staring at me, I didn't know about it till an hour ago too. Seeing Pansy's and Daphne glare, Theodore quickly retorted. Should we inform the teachers then? Pansy said, though I don't know about Dumbledore, Professor Snape might be able to help us. It might help us, but it will arouse too many questions which I am not really in liberty to answer. How about Hermione, don't you want to tell her as well? Daphne asked. You explain things to her for me in case she asks, but don't tell her about the basilisk. Draco said, though I don't think she will do anything alone, but with those two idiots by her side, I am sure they will drag her into a mess. Also, do the same for every member of our club, just tell them it's my orders. Daphne and Pansy nodded, knowing which idiots Draco was talking about. Do you know about the Chamber of Secrets too? Pansy asked. I do know something about it, but don't expect me to tell it to you. Draco said seriously, just do as I say and stay out of trouble at least till I come back. Pansy sighed and nodded. Draco knew Pansy was upset about him keeping secrets, but there were many things he couldn't share with her. Knowing there wasn't much he could do, he pulled Pansy into a tight hug. Don't worry too much about the basilisk. Draco said gently as he caressed her hair, though it's a threat, I promise you that it won't cause you any harm as long as you do as I say. Pansy didn't say anything and just lied in his embrace like a kid. Also, I am really sorry, but you have to understand my side of things too. Pansy said in a muffled tone, hiding her face in his chest. Draco knew Pansy was trying her hardest to not cry for so long, as this was probably going to be their longest separation ever since they met. I'll be back before you know it. Draco said, patting her back softly, and I want to see you win the Quidditch Cup this year, so don't let me down. I won't. Pansy said in a determined tone. Draco looked at Daphne, who was looking at them with a smile on her face. Draco didn't say anything and just stretched his hands, calling Daphne to join the hug as well. Daphne quickly obliged and rushed towards Draco, hugging him. Lucky bastard. Theodore mumbled, looking at Draco holding two girls in his embrace as he walked off. Take this and keep it in a secure place. Draco said, handing Pansy, Daphne, and Theodore a batch of mandrake restorative draft which he had prepared a very long time ago. In case any of you get petrified, it will be helpful, but don't go around handing it to everyone as I don't have a lot of it. You're not giving it to your mistress from Gryffindor? Theodore asked in a teasing tone. She will figure things out too quickly if I do, with the mirrors and all. Draco shook his head. I wouldn't worry much about her if it weren't for the two idiots. Anyway, keeping them far away from these things is the best outcome of the situation. But do give her one if she falls victim to the basilisk. They all nodded as they head out. Draco carried his suitcase with him, ready to leave as his ride was already here. I have already kept an eye on things. Theodore whispered to Draco, since the only lead we have is Potter, I will watching over him for now. He has an invisibility cloak as well, so make sure to keep an eye out. Draco said, as far as I know, as long as Vold knows about Potter, he would do anything in his power to get to him. What are you talking about? Hermione came walking towards them. Nothing much. Draco shook his head as he stretched out his arms for a hug. Hermione, unlike before, wasn't much shy as she hugged him back. But she still didn't hug him for long with Pansy and others around. Have a safe trip. You stay safe too. Draco said, though I would rather ask you to stay away from Potter, but since you won't, at least don't blindly follow him into a mess. Don't talk bad about them. Hermione said, smiling, don't worry, I will keep a look around. But I did have some questions for you. And you must know I won't answer them as long as it's about yesterday. Draco said, looking serious, don't go looking for trouble and make me worry about you. Hermione, though not satisfied, still nodded as she didn't want to pick a fight with Draco today. Stay safe and don't hang around at night, and please make sure to not roam around alone. Draco said, messing her bushy hair, consider this you repaying some favors of mine. Also, Theodore here will help you if anything goes wrong, so don't hesitate to ask him for help, though not as good as me, he will certainly help you. Hermione nodded with doubts in her mind, but she didn't question him. Take this mirror with you and don't go out without it. Draco said, handing her one, they will answer your questions if you have any. Leaving them with a final goodbye, Draco went towards Dumbledore's office. He was about to enter when he suddenly heard Dumbledore call out to him. "Draco, we have been waiting for you." Draco turned around to see Dumbledore along with two men by his side. One was the principal of Durmstrang himself, Igor Karkaroff, while the other person was someone who he didn't know at all. "It's finally great to see the genius with my own eyes," Karkaroff said with an unctuously cheerful demeanor, "though I expected you to be a little small, but hey, all those powers need a good body to handle it, right? It's good to see you too, Headmaster." Draco smiled, coming closer toward the tall and thin Karkaroff with a greeting. Karkaroff looked like any villain from a movie, wearing a sleek, silver fur with his weak chin which was not completely covered by his goatee, which ended with a small curl. His cold blue eyes made him slightly unnerving, and to finish the touch he had yellow shining teeth. Dumbledore's face twitched a little hearing Draco call the other party headmaster, but he didn't let it bother him as he continued with his usual happy expression. "No need to call me headmaster, boy." Igor laughed, "Call me uncle, your father and I are good friends." Chapter 161. Draco didn't say much and just smiled as he looked at the man besides Karkaroff who was looking at him in a weird way. "And this is? Oh. I forgot to introduce him, he is Silas, one of the professors in Durmstrang and my assistant." Karkaroff said, patting the man. "He was supposed to be the one to pick you up, but I decided to hop along the journey as well." "It's really a pleasure to meet you," Silas said, coming forward. "I have always wanted to meet the rumored prince." "It's great to meet you too, Professor." Draco nodded, "And the whole prince thing is an exaggeration and nothing else, so please don't flatter me for it." Silas shook his head and stood back to where he previously stood. "You can visit any time you want, Professor Karkaroff." Dumbledore said, turning to face Draco. "Draco, are you ready to leave?" "Yes, I have said my goodbyes and I am good to go," Draco said, shaking the suitcase in his hand. "By the way, can you tell me where Professor Snape is? I need to have a word with him if I could." "You just missed him," Dumbledore said, "though I don't know what for. Professor Snape has taken a vacation for a week." "I see." Draco nodded. "Since he isn't here, I am ready to leave any time you are, Uncle Karkaroff." "Let's not waste any further time then." Karkaroff nodded. "Dumbledore, it was great seeing you after so long and I hope to see you again. We will be seeing each other sooner than you expect." Dumbledore said humbly with underlying meaning behind his words, "And also, do make sure to be here on time, Draco, and since you're representing Hogwarts, make sure to behave. The geniuses are always the troublemakers, aren't they?" Karkaroff laughed, showing his yellow teeth. "Don't worry, he will be fine under my tutelage. I am sure Durmstrang is the place where a true pure-blood genius like him belongs. A true place for the prince." Dumbledore didn't say reply to the statement as he sat there with a hint of a smile. "Do take care of him though, as he is really a precious student of ours." "Don't worry, Dumbledore, you have my word," Karkaroff said, nodding. "When are you getting your wand back, Draco? I heard Cornelius talking about your situation." "After February," Draco replied. "The ban was placed for 6 months and it's already been 2. "Good, you can at least show your full potential while you're there." Karkaroff nodded. "Well, this is it then, Dumbledore, I will be taking your genius for now. Have a safe journey." Dumbledore said as he looked back. "I hope to see you soon as well, Draco." Draco nodded. Igor and Silas walked towards the exit of the castle, but before leaving, Draco turned to face Dumbledore. "I don't want to know what games are you playing, but I hope you know what you're doing." Draco said, "I don't want to hear a piece of single bad news about my friends while I am not here." "I really don't know what you're talking about," Dumbledore said with his usual casual tone. "Is there something that you know about? I know we both suspect the same thing, so playing naive isn't really going to end well for us." Draco said, "I don't know what you're trying to achieve, but I hope you know that if any of the students get hurt, Hogwarts will surely close down." Both Dumbledore and Draco knew that it wasn't a threat but rather the complete honesty. Saying what he wanted to say, Draco followed Igor and went out. Deep inside he always suspected Dumbledore, but this time he was sure, Dumbledore really did know something. If that wasn't the case, then there was no way in hell that any of the students would survive the basilisk attack. Considering last time it was out, Moaning Myrtle died, there was a huge probability that someone should have died in the second year too, but the victims were only petrified. One could have been a coincidence, but more than that was definitely a sign that someone was hindering the process. Draco was still stuck between the world he was in and the book he once read, but the reality was much more different. Though Dumbledore might not know about the Horcruxes, he for sure knew about the basilisk. In the magical world, there isn't a thing as coincidence, and who better to control things here in Hogwarts than Dumbledore. Though Draco didn't trust the old fogey too much, he at least knew that Dumbledore wouldn't let anyone die, which was more than enough for him. "Get in, Draco," Igor called out, as he stood outside a wooden carriage, which was laced with silver pieces of jewelry. The horse was carried by 4 full-grown Abraxas. "Surprised are you?" Igor asked, looking proud. "I traded some books from our school for these winged horses from Beau's Batons. The headmistress there loves to breed them, though that giantess nearly wanted an arm for it. I still managed to get it." Draco nodded in understanding and got inside the carriage, which was a bit more spacious than what it seemed like from the inside. In front of him was Silas, staring at him with the same gaze as before, but when Igor entered, Silas' expression turned to normal. Draco wasn't much surprised by this behavior, however, with Durmstrang being Ryan's territory. He was already expecting some enemies to be around. Unexpectedly, these people with him weren't really under the Imperius curse like the previous people, but he was still doubtful whether one of them was under the same magic as Pius was before, the one where one could be completely controlled by someone. Not trusting anyone, Draco just sat there with his wand hidden up his sleeve in case of an unexpected attack. The horses started flapping their wings as the carriage lifted off the ground. Draco looked outside the window and saw his friends along with all the members from the club waving him a final goodbye through the castle window. Not knowing whether they could see him or not, he still waved back at them until he couldn't see them anymore. "So what subject do you really teach, Professor Silas?" "I teach dark arts," Silas said with a smile. "Though it might be a foreign subject to you as they don't teach it in Hogwarts, I am sure you will get the hang of it soon." "He is, after all, a genius." Igor butted in the conversation. "I heard you defeated Lockhart with minor dark arts, which I must say is really impressive." "I heard about him before, and though I don't know much about how strong he is, defeating an adult wizard is already praiseworthy for someone your age." "It was a stroke of luck," Draco said. "To be honest, I am sure he could have won if he had a few more months to prepare for it." "You're too humble, Draco," Igor said. "One should be proud of their achievements." "It's the truth," Draco said, sighing. "I have a tendency to underestimate my opponents and overestimate my abilities, but the battle really has given me some insights. I need to crush my opponents down the moment I have the chance, no matter how weak or strong." Silas stayed silent, just glaring at Draco, saying nothing, while Igor on the other hand laughed. "Ha ha ha. You remind me of a student of mine," he said, "a bit hard-headed, but he is really hard-working. You might have heard of him. He is, of course, one of the rising stars, the same as you, Victor Crumb." Chapter 162. "Crumb," Draco mumbled in disappointment, but he didn't let it show on his face. "I have indeed heard of him. It's quite difficult to not notice a rising Quidditch star who I heard is getting selected for the Bulgarian team." Yes, a star, that he is," Igor said proudly, "but it is really a bit of disappointment that you couldn't enter Durmstrang from the beginning. As far as I know, Lucius wanted you to go there, didn't he?" "Yeah, he did, but Mother worried about Durmstrang being a bit too far away, but I am quite happy here in Hogwarts. It's not really that bad as some might think." Draco said, "I have been meaning to ask, aren't there any good students in Durmstrang, as in academically?" "Well, almost all of them excel in every subject, but there hasn't been anyone exception like you," Igor said, again praising Durmstrang again. "I hope within these 6 months you make your mind up to choose the right school for yourself." Draco ignored most of the conversation throughout the whole rest of the journey with just simple nods. Draco was trying to figure out what Ryan was actually trying to achieve. The way he acted was completely different from how he appeared in front of people. After all the investigation he had done with the help of Snape, he had concluded 2 very important details. 1. Ryan was creating an army of his own filled with wizards and witches and even magical creatures. Last he heard any information about it was that a pack of werewolves had joined his cause willingly. And that wasn't all, he had even managed to influence wizards with the Imperius curse to work for him. Though not so big, he had quite a decent battle power right now, especially if he wanted to sneak attack. The opponents might not stand a chance at all. 2. Ryan was completely anonymous in these things to the point where nothing could be traced back to him, suggesting someone else was doing his bidding for him. Snape and Draco had come to the same conclusion, that it must have been a very faithful servant who is very close to him. Which suggests that the person was in Durmstrang. Though the investigation suggested that things in Durmstrang were normal, the suspicion that there was a faithful servant hiding behind all the students and teachers there made things much more complicated. The person could be anyone, even Igor, who was chatting with him right now. For a cowardly dark wizard who snitched on his fellow Death Eaters, and someone who used to follow Voldemort, the suspicion on him wouldn't be too far-fetched. Every wizard who used to follow Voldemort wanted one thing, power, whether it was for dominance or it was to get back on the top, it all correlated to wanting power. So Igor could have easily submitted himself to Ryan, but that was all suspicions. Besides, he had found something much more interesting. Silas, who was staring at him. Though he looked normal on the surface, the aura around him told a different story. In fact, Draco had never seen anything like it before, just the whole vibe of animal-like killing intent Silas was giving off was really intensifying. He had never felt the same way about any other person he had met before, and from the way things were looking, he was sure Igor couldn't feel anything of the same. The feeling was hard to describe, but in general, it felt as if a predator was looking at its prey, as if it was barely holding back from ripping the prey to shreds. Draco was sure the only reason he could feel it was because he was now a half-Vila of some sort and was quite a bit sensitive to nature magic, but what made Silas so different was really amusing to Draco. Throughout the whole journey, Draco had already found his main suspect, though there might be others or even Silas himself could be innocent, but the feeling he was giving was enough to decide there was something wrong with him. Through a not-so-long journey, Draco could finally see Durmstrang in sight. Durmstrang Institute really lived up to its name for being one of the 3 largest wizarding schools. Durmstrang, like Hogwarts, is a castle, though their castle is not quite as big as Hogwarts. It is still large enough to shock someone. The castle is 4 stories tall and has the same medieval feeling to it. It also has very extensive grounds and is surrounded by lakes and mountains. From what Draco knew of the school is that it is unplottable, meaning no maps can ever trace its location, similar to Leaky Cauldron, and Durmstrang also conceals its whereabouts from plain sight with additional magic added to it, to keep muggles away from the place at any cost. Durmstrang was founded during the Middle Ages by the great Bulgarian witch Nerita Volchanova, who served as the first head of the school. She was succeeded after her mysterious death by Professor Harfang Munter, who established Durmstrang's reputation for emphasizing martial magic as an impressive part of its curriculum. One of the few reasons Draco was really interested in this school is it not only prepared students for duels but also for real-life fighting scenario, as one is very unlikely to follow the rules of a duel in a death match. The other thing that made this school very interesting was because of a single person, Gellert Grindelwald, one of the most powerful and dangerous dark wizards of all time, who was accepted into Durmstrang Institute back in the day. Although the school was oriented towards the dark arts, Grindelwald's experiments in dark magic were considered too dangerous for the students. After a certain amount of time, Durmstrang could no longer ignore Grindelwald's dangerous studies and expelled him. For a school that was so proud of its history of dark magic, it was kind of ironic to expel a student for it. But the fact they did suggests how ruthless and dangerous Grindelwald's magic was, to the point where it even made a school like Durmstrang to expel him. But even after all that, to this day, Grindelwald is still marked as the best student in the school's history. Draco had heard of students who were so proud about the fact that they went to the same school as Grindelwald that they went on to brag about it, only to get taught a lesson in the form of retribution by the people who lost their family members to Grindelwald. And last but not least, he was kind of happy to meet Crabbe and Goyle again. Though they weren't really too close friends, he still considered them to be a sort of responsibility since he had changed their entire fate. For someone who was supposed to stay in Hogwarts, they had to leave for Durmstrang, which wasn't really that much of a nice place as Igor made it out to be. One of the main reasons being Igor himself. Igor Karkaroff, after being acquitted as a Death Eater by betraying Voldemort by revealing information to the British Ministry of Magic, rose to the position of headmaster of Durmstrang and had created an immensely unpopular image of himself in this position. To the point where several students were removed from the school by their parents for his ruthlessness. But even after all the backlash, he still insisted on an environment ruled by fear and intimidation from his students, leading many to view him as egotistical and unprincipled. So seeing Karkaroff act all chummy with him made him feel extremely uncomfortable. Though his unusualness wasn't comparable to Silas, as his behavior could be interpreted as him wanting to impress Draco, but it still didn't feel right at all. Chapter 163. The carriage landed outside the gates of the school, and soon as they did, the huge gates opened itself, letting them in. Since it was still the middle of the day, most of the students were busy having classes, so no one could be seen outside. The fact that they arrived so quick made Draco feel impressed of the carriage and the horses. Though he had his own pair of flying horses, he had never gotten the chance to ride it around outside other than inside his suitcase, where he took a couple of test drives, so seeing them reach quicker than ever made Draco quite satisfied. Draco stepped outside the carriage, looking around the place. The place seemed empty compared to Hogwarts. It was way too dark for its own good. The main castle had a huge inscription of the school's coat of arms, which was a double-headed eagle, which also featured the school's name in both Latin and Cyrillic script. Draco found it quite hilarious how Durmstrang was the complete opposite of Hogwarts in every little thing possible. If Hogwarts in Muggle terms was very akin to a normal boarding school, then Durmstrang would be comparable to a military school, with its strict regime and training. Since you're a transfer student you don't have to do much, but I still prefer that you change into our school's uniform, as standing out isn't always a good thing. Igor said as he got out of the carriage as well. Silas here will provide you with all the necessities and explain you with all things you need to know. I have some other matters to attend, so I will be taking my leave. Draco nodded as Igor left towards a tower, which was not too far away from the castle. That's the headmaster's office. Silas said, looking at the tower as well. If you need anything from Professor Karkaroff, please head there. Draco nodded in understanding as he saw 3 men in uniforms heading towards them. Without saying anything other than a simple nod towards Silas, the men got hold of the horses and started leading them away. They are the guards in our school. Silas explained, looking at Draco with a small smile. Things here are a bit different, so I hope you get used to it. So shall we go inside then, Mr. Black? Sure. Heading inside the castle, the first thing Draco saw was moving portraits similar to that of Hogwarts, but unlike that of Hogwarts, all the portraits contained gloomy figures inside huge golden frames. The portraits stared curiously at Draco as he was still in Hogwarts uniform, completely different from the rest, while some acted unbothered about it. These are the portraits of our headmasters and all the important figures that went through their magical journey here in Durmstrang. Silas said, acting like a guide leading Draco around. They don't say anything, so trying to talk to them would be pointless. Shouldn't they be in a more secure place than right in front of the gates? Draco said, looking around. I mean, isn't it a bit disrespectful to do this? Well, it was like that before, but ever since Headmaster Karkaroff took the office he changed the things around quite a lot. Silas said, sighing. According to him, we should make people feel the glory of Durmstrang the moment they enter the castle. They should look at these painting of these great figures and know the excellence of Durmstrang from the very beginning. That's ambitious, but aren't people's memory wiped about how they get here? Draco asked, so what's the point of even going through all this showing off greatness when all they remember is vagueness? The potion isn't too powerful at all, and besides, the impression of it is what really matters. Silas said, cunningly laughing. Also, are you worried about the potion? If so, you don't have to get worked up about your memories getting wiped. Professor Karkaroff was unwilling about it from the very beginning. I wasn't worried about that at all. Draco said with not even a hint of nervousness. Draco, who was in the enemy territory, wouldn't stupidly risk exposure by drinking unknown potion left and right. Even if Igor himself forced him, he wouldn't budge a bit about it. It's really amazing. Silas said, laughing again. I have always been interested in why Professor Karkaroff was willing to bend so many rules and regulations and going far as to accept a transfer student, which haven't happened in a very long time, but it makes sense to me now seeing your raw confidence, Mr. Black. The rumored prince really does lives up to his reputation. I have been meaning to ask this, Professor, what is the deal with the prince title? Draco asked, confused. I have heard many titles given to me before, but I have never really heard people call me a prince before. I see, it's no wonder you seem so uncomfortable with the name. Silas nodded as if understanding something, but you better get used to it, since as far as I know every magic school knows you as the prince. Wait, what? Draco was even more confused, as he had never heard of it before. This is a secret, but when someone gets too famous, information about them starts circulating through certain networks. Silas said in a friendly tone, while I don't know about it much myself, I do know that they give a title to every single one of these people, like how Harry Potter is known as the Chosen One and you are now known as the Prince. And with you beating the famous Lockhart, you have become more famous than ever, so I wouldn't be surprised if everyone starts calling you that. Draco nodded. Though he knew a lot about these sort of stuff due to his father being in a high position in the ministry, there were still too many informants and independent wizarding networks that were hard to find out, like the auction and the black market they found out about later on. Also, the fact that he was in Hogwarts all this time made it impossible to know these things. He looked at Silas, who was smiling at him. Though Draco didn't know if Silas was faking it or not, he couldn't shake off the aura he was getting from Silas. This is my office. Silas said, stopping Draco's thought as he opened a small door which was in the corner of the castle. The room was pitch dark but lit up as soon as they stepped foot in it. The candles around automatically flicked on, brightening the room immediately. The room, in contrast to the darkness, was more lively than what Draco imagined it to be. Being the dark arts teacher, I do have some dark items, so be careful not to touch anything. Silas said as he went towards his desk searching for something. We wouldn't want you to get cursed on your first day now, would we? Draco looked around the place without much interest, but one thing caught his eye. He went closer towards it and as suspected it was a scarf, but it wasn't just any scarf but the one that belonged to the Slytherin house. I see you have found it. Silas said as he looked at the scarf along with Draco. You really are observant. Not caring about the useless compliments, Draco looked at Silas with a questioning gaze. You were from Hogwarts. Used to be. Silas said, but I didn't return back after the first year, so I guess it doesn't really count, right? Chapter 164. Can I ask why? I had some issues of my own. Silas said vaguely in almost a murmur, as he placed a box on top of his table. This is your uniform and the books for this semester. It's mostly the same, but you won't at least have to read Lockhart's book here. Seeing Silas deliberately divert the topic, Draco didn't continue on it as he vaguely nodded. Also, here is the map for Durmstrang and your school's curriculum. Silas placed the papers on top of the box. Oh. I almost forgot, this is the badge you must wear as a transfer student, you should just put it on now. Draco took the badge from Silas and looked at it, trying to feel any mana coming from the badge, but as he expected, it was just a normal badge. The badge had the same Durmstrang's coat of arms as he saw before, except the background, which was completely white. There aren't any tricky stairs or misguided rooms here in Durmstrang, so there is no need to worry about losing your way. Silas said, smiling, I have marked your room on the map, so please head there for now. Understanding that Silas didn't want to have a conversation any further, Draco obliged and picked the box up as he headed out towards the door, but just before he went out he decided to test the waters. Professor, since you went to Hogwarts, I wonder why Dumbledore really didn't seem to recognize you back there. People change, Mr. Black. Silas said in an unusually calm but hurrying tone, and not all of us can be a notable student now, can we? Draco didn't look back as he headed out the door without any further questions. The moment he did, he heard a loud thud as the door behind him closed, causing Draco to smile. Just another idiot. Draco said to himself as he followed his way to his room with the help of the map. Though he wasn't much certain before, he was now more than sure that there was something wrong with Silas. Though he couldn't completely link it with Ryan, but seeing Silas's action and how easy it was to get on his nerves made one thing very clear: Silas wasn't a big fan of Draco as he pretended to be. Back inside his office, Silas threw the table across the room with an extreme force, growling with anger. This isn't good. He said to himself as he gritted his teeth, taking heavy breaths, to force my transformation midday just by me being near him. I need to tell Master about this. Draco slowly but surely found his room, which seemed to be in the dormitory as the others. Unlike Hogwarts, there weren't any houses in Hogwarts, so everyone lived in the same place. Draco was allocated in room number 57. Looking around, he sighed at the hollow place and entered his room when out of nowhere he heard someone read a spell. Without hesitation, he dropped whatever that was in his hand and dodged, taking his wand out as he pointed it at the direction of the person in front of him. To his surprise, the person in front of him was just a young boy smiling at him with no wand in his hand. Looking at him, he seemed about the same age as Draco and was wearing a Durmstrang's uniform. But one thing that stood out was the orange patch of hair, which was different from the rest of his brown head. The feature made Draco finally realize who he was. The boy in front of him was Walter Snide from the Snide family, a well-renowned pureblood family. Snide family, though not as ancient as the Malfoys, it is mostly known for its wealth, as they don't ever seem to lack it, and the fact that Walter's parents were Death Eaters was another thing that stood out amongst the rest, which was also the reason Draco was familiar with him and was one of his friends growing up until the latter's family decided to move out of the city and live far off from all the problems. Snide? Malfoy, or should I say, Black? The Walter smirked. Seems like you really are living up to the reputation these days. The hell are you doing here? Draco asked, getting up. You mean here in Durmstrang, or your room? Walter said, casually leaning against a desk. For your first question, I needed to go to a school and Durmstrang was the nearest one, and as for the second question, congratulations, you've got yourself a roommate. Well, it seems you're still a dick. I guess some people really don't change. Draco said, waving his wand as he picked up the things he dropped, and here I thought, Durmstrang would be nice enough to give the transfer student a room of his own, but I guess not. Same here, I thought they would at least leave me alone, but who knew they were going to shove a transfer student in my room? Walter said, well, but they really can't do anything about it either, as the other rooms here are all packed other than the ones in the girls' dormitory. Girls' dormitory, Draco mumbled as he finally remembered that Durmstrang was not the same as the movies, but rather like the books, where the school housed not only the boys but girls as well. Still drooling about girls, are you? Walter commented, seeing Draco lost in his thoughts. Oh well, can't really blame you, but I got to warn you, the girls here are not that pretty. According to the rumors, the pretty ones started moving away after Igor came in. Not going to call him by respect? For a coward. Walter sneered. Che, besides, what are you doing here? Isn't Hogwarts good enough for the prince? Again with the prince thing, Draco rolled his eyes. I have some work to do here, but honestly I am surprised you're here. I thought your family were all loyal Slytherins in Hogwarts. I was surprised you weren't there. Oh, were you? Walter asked sarcastically, for years and you didn't even send a letter, and you were surprised that you didn't see me in Hogwarts. Well, thanks for leaving me with an address to send a letter to. Draco said in a sarcastic tone as well, I remember sending plenty but you never replied. Both of them looked at one another and laughed. I couldn't. Walter said smiling, Father didn't want anyone to know and you know how things were after Voldemort was gone. Well, I wouldn't pretend like I remember either. Draco said smiling as well, after you were gone I was busy with a lot of other things, you know, magic and stuff. But it's really good to see you again. You too, buddy. Walter said, how's Theodore and the rest? Theodore's the same as usual and I haven't really met with the rest of them. Draco said sighing, we all separated ways after that and I have no clue of where they are either. Honestly, if I hadn't come to Durmstrang I would have never known you were here as well. Due to Voldemort's actions, a lot of the purebloods suspected of being the Death Eaters were having a hard time living in a normal society like before. While houses like Malfoy's stood tall due to their heritage being old and strong enough, some of the newly formed pureblood family weren't that lucky and had to leave to different hideouts and countries to at least live peacefully. The Snide family was just one of many. I haven't met the others too. Walter said, but you would be surprised knowing who else is here. Don't tell me. Draco made a bitter face as he realized something looking at Walter's weird smile. You guessed it, Grimblehawk is here as well. I thought her family was not really into the idea of Durmstrang. Draco questioned, she always talked about going to Beauxbatons. I mean, why is that crazy girl even here? Chapter 165. You know how she is. Walter sighed, she ran away from Beauxbatons to Durmstrang after she somehow got information about me being here. Kind of amazing, I tell you, not even Igor could figure how the hell she got here without getting lost, but due to some family connection he let her stay. I don't exactly know how she is, we weren't really that close with her. Draco said, making a bitter face, the only thing I remember about her is she continuously insulting me and the others for being Death Eaters as she obsessed over you in every party we attended. She's not that annoying as she used to be. Walter said, smiling bitterly as well, you aren't going to take what a 7-year-old girl said to you in the past that seriously, are you? I guess some of the rumors about you being petty was correct. Che, forget about her and the rumors. Draco shook his head, why are you here in your room? I mean, don't you have classes right now? Yours truly is currently suspended from attending any class at the moment. Walter said, looking smug, picking fights is a special skill I learned these past years, you see. With who? Who other than the rising Quidditch star, the one and only Victor Crumb? Walter said with a cheerful tone while his disgusted expression told another story, the guy thinks he can do everything just because he is favored by Igor. Is he that bad? Draco questioned, as he remembered Crumb from the books, though still a dick, he wasn't really that bad of a person considering Hermione was friends with the guy. Egotistical would be the right word, my friend. Walter shook his head, forget about him, I don't want to waste my breath talking about that guy. At least tell me you won the fight. Not exactly, Walter said, it happened in the heat of the moment you see, and at the moment though I managed to suppress him in magic, the thing quickly turned into a push and pull and ended up in a bet. A Quidditch match between him and me. You can play Quidditch alone. Draco said, raising his eyebrows as he got the gist of the situation. No, it's a 3-on-3 matches and we play without the batters. Seems like he got a hold of your anger. Draco said, guess I am not the only with anger issues. What did you say? Nothing. Draco shook his head, so when is this match? 2 weeks from now. Walter said, sighing, I was kind of fretting about it before, but now that you're here, it wouldn't be that hard. What makes you think I will join you? Draco rolled his eyes, you should know, Quidditch isn't really my forte. Dear Draco, we are old pals, aren't we? Walter started talking with a begging tone, and I am not exactly popular here as well, so please do me this favor. How long have you known that I would be here? Just yesterday. Walter said, please, for old time's sake help me this one and I swear I will return the favor. Since you aren't even popular, you wouldn't be really much use to me either. Draco said, get a better bargain. You need someone with connections, right? Walter got what Draco the hint in Draco's words, help me and I'll help you convince her to help you. Her. You mean Grimblehawk? Yes. Walter nodded, Arya is the best when it comes to digging pieces of information. As I said, she even managed to find me, so how about it? I'll think about it. Draco said vaguely as he started putting up the books and dresses in the empty closet, so is she going to be the second player? Yeah, well the fight started due to her, so of course, she is going. I see that both of you are getting along well. Draco nodded. It's kind of amazing that you didn't even have to try. It's not what you're thinking. Walter hurriedly said, as if he wanted to clear a misunderstanding, and besides, aren't you doing too good for yourself? For someone who looked like an evil wizard the moment he was born, you sure have become extremely good looking. No wonder they call you the prince. Stop with the prince thing, it's really annoying to just listen someone call me that. Draco said with annoyance clearly visible in his tone. So does everyone know that I am here? Yeah. They announced it yesterday. Walter said, information doesn't really pass around here in Durmstrang that much unless it's with official letters. So it was quite surprising to know you were coming here so suddenly. The place is too strict for its own good. Well, it's still something. Walter shook his head. By the way, how is the legendary Hogwarts like? Much better than this. Has he arrived? Ryan asked as Silas kneeled in front of him. He indeed has, Master. Silas said, but there have been some complications. I thought you told me that there weren't going to be any. Ryan said, clenching his eyebrows. What happened? I was certain there wouldn't be any, but ever since I got in contact with him, even back in Hogwarts, something started going completely wrong. Silas said with his head still bowed down as if he was afraid to look back up. Though I couldn't understand it in the very beginning, the more I stayed with him the harder it became to control myself, until the last moment where I was barely able to control myself from transforming. Silas thought he would get some punishment for what he did, but the scolding never came. He looked back up at Ryan only to see him smiling a little. It's like I suspected, our magic repels one another. Ryan said, and you Silas, since your transformation are all controlled by my magic, it started reacting and started going against you when he was close to you. What should I do now, Master? Nothing, carry on as usual. Ryan said, as long as you don't stay close to him for too long, you should be fine. I feel like he already suspects me a little due to my actions, Master. Silas confessed, I feel like we can't go on as we planned. Yes, that is indeed a thing to worry about, but fret not, I already have other plans. Ryan said, grabbing the edge of his chair, it's not like I didn't think of this scenario. Yes, Master. Do you really need this amount of thick clothes? Draco said irritatedly as he walked out with Walter, dressed in his new Durmstrang uniform. We are wizards for a reason, you know. You will get used to it no time. Walter said laughing, it gets really cold out here, so it's at least a bit helpful to say the least, and that dress really suits you too well, you look like a wealthy noble in it. The uniform of Durmstrang was pretty simple, dark fur cloaks, fur hats, and blood-red robes. Though the hats and cloak weren't necessary to be worn all the time, the robes were still a necessity. With the fur and all, Draco couldn't deny that he looked like a rich noble, but the blood-red robes really seemed like a military more than anything, to say the least. Chapter 166. The classes should be over by now. Walter said, the dining hall is that way. I am sure the people would go crazy when they see you, as you've been the talk of schools for as long as I can remember. As long as they don't annoy me like back in Hogwarts, I am completely fine with it. You might be in for a supper. Before he could finish his sentence, Walter's eyes caught something that immediately made him bitter as he rushed towards a particular table. Draco quickly noticed something as well, though he didn't know what was going on, but looking at the situation it seemed like a group of guys trying to bully some girls around. Crumb, I thought you learned your lesson, but I guess I was wrong. Walter yelled as he took out his wand, I told you to stay away from her, didn't I? Don't get ahead of yourself, Snide, last time you won because you sneakily attacked me. Crumb and the people around him took their wand out and pointed at Walter as well, and me not talking to Arya was part of the deal, which hasn't taken place yet, and that again is if you win. So till then, you don't have a say about what I can do or not. You, Walter grumbled in anger as he couldn't do much against so many of Crumb's followers and Crumb himself, as they were in their 5th year already, so they were much harder to fight, but he wasn't the type to back down. If you want to settle things, then let's settle it right here and now, but I hope you won't go running back to the headmaster this time. A crowd started forming around the place, with both of them being at the center of it. Crumb's face twisted in anger as Walter had hit him right where it hurt. He had never gone to Igor to complain against Walter, instead, it was Igor who went through extra lengths and unnecessarily took action against Walter by suspending him for a couple of weeks straight. But even though he and his friends knew about it, a lot of people thought the otherwise, especially the crazy purebloods who weren't exactly a fan of his. Due to this, his life had been tough throughout the week with random taunts thrown at him every now and then, so Walter's comment wasn't exactly the thing he wanted to hear right now. You'll pay for this. Crumb roared in anger as he went for a punch, forgetting he was a wizard in the moment of rage. Walter, without wasting time, used a spell throwing Crumb across the room, but as expected of an athlete, he wasn't backing down without a fight. Among all this, Draco was just watching the fight by the sidelines. Amongst the chaos, not a lot of people noticed him as they were more interested in the fight that was taking place. Draco had no intention in joining the fight or helping Walter as he casually looked around at the students, and as he expected, the figure named Ryan was nowhere to be seen. "Aren't you going to help?" a voice called out to Draco as he looked back at a girl staring at him. Though shorter than him, she had a mature-looking face which was pale, and she had beautiful long dark reddish hair. "Why should I?" Draco answered, already guessing the girl's identity. "I thought you were better than that," the girl said in a haughty tone. "Or is everything just a pretense? If me not getting involved in something that I had nothing to do is a pretense, then let it be so," Draco said, casually shrugging his shoulders. "And besides, if you're so concerned about your little boyfriend, then why don't you go help him instead?" "I would, but I am not," the girl gritted her teeth, trying to hold back something, when suddenly Walter was thrown across the dining table, making her suddenly feel helpless. "Help him, Black." Draco looked at Walter, who got back up and went back to join the fight once again. "Why should I? I know you are here in Durmstrang for a reason," she said, "and you should know I can help you. Why should I trust you? You're looking for the person who attacked you and Theodore back during your vacation, isn't it?" she quickly said with urgency in her voice as she saw Crumb's friends joining in on the fight. "Is that enough to pique your interest in the least?" Before Draco could say anything, she took the wand in her hand and threw it at him. "We both need each other's help, don't we?" On the other side, Crumb's friends were getting ready to attack Walter as he was kind of overwhelming Crumb in a one-to-one duel, when out of nowhere they heard someone else read a spell out loud, and before they knew it, they were suddenly tied by a rope, pulling them together with force, constricting them. Everyone looked shocked, wondering what was going on, as they cleared their path to find a strangely handsome boy with snow-white hair, slowly walking towards Crumb and Walter. Whispers started going around as people looked at the boy carefully. "It's him. Is he really the prince?" "Of course he is, haven't you seen his pictures in the newspapers? I nearly forgot that he was arriving today." The same way, others were staring at Draco. Crumb was intensely gazing at him as well. Of course, he had already recognized who he was, Draco Black, the prince of the Black family, or in short the prince, but one thing he couldn't figure out was why Black was interfering with this fight. "Took you long enough," Walter breathed heavily as the whole thing was getting a bit too hard for him to handle on his own. Unlike what he had in mind, Draco didn't even look at him as he just stared at Crumb, casually waving the wand in his hand around. "You are our guest, so I don't want to use force against you," Crumb said, staring back into Draco's ice-blue eyes, "so it's best if you don't interfere." "I am not trying to," Draco said, smiling a little as he looked at Crumb's friend struggling with the rope, trying to get out. "But you do know the proper tradition of a duel, right? I didn't need them to interfere." "I sure hope that's the case." Draco turned around. "Good luck, buddy, I hope you win," saying that he casually walked back to his original place alongside the girl, while everyone including the girl was just stuck wondering what just happened. Walter's lips twitched as he looked back at Crumb, and without warning both of them started to duel again, this time a bit more formally than before. "You really have changed," the girl said. "I was sure you would have stepped in, but I guess you really grew up." "Is that right, Grimblehawk?" Draco said. "In that case, so have you, considering you asked me for help." "It wasn't me asking for help. It was just an ordinary deal, so don't get too delighted about it," the girl said. "And call me Arya, no need to bring up our family's name every time we speak." "Well, you started it," Draco lazily said. "So what information have you got for me, Ms. Arya?" "There is a time and place for that," Arya said, rolling her eyes as she stared back at the students of Durmstrang, staring Draco with wonder. Sigh. "You could have at least helped him, you know." Chapter 167. "I could have." Draco looked back at the match between the two, and honestly, he was quite amazed that both of them were still in a draw. "But it doesn't really look that bad to me." "You don't think everyone here is as strong as you, right?" Arya said in a sarcastic tone. "Crumb is very good in charms and offense, while Walter's strength lies more on defense, dark arts, and curses. It might not look much, but Walter is the perfect counter for Crumb. If only he was a bit older and experienced, he could have easily won the duel without taking this amount of time." "You seem to be still quite fond of him," Draco said with a questioning gaze. "I heard you escaped from Beauxbatons. What's that all about?" He couldn't keep his mouth shut, huh? Arya sighed heavily. "Well, it's none of your concerns to begin with, but I am more interested in you being here. I thought you were stupid, but not stupid enough to come here to face your problems head on." though it was still expected. Do you just work on guesses or informants? For someone who looks certain about everything, you really do contradict yourself quite a lot. None. You see, some things are infinite in the world, including knowledge. The more you know, the more questions you have and the more lost you become. It's really endless. Arya said, my will is to know what is going on and not act on it. Same with your situation. I know quite a lot about it, but if I were to act on it and try to know more, I am sure to be more than just lost in this scenario. And similar to knowledge, the future can really be dangerous and confusing. Even if you know everything about the future, it changes so drastically that you can't really be sure of anything, leaving me just contradicting myself every time. Draco looked back at the fight and really couldn't hold back anymore, as he wanted to clearly understand what and how much information Arya had got, so he walked near them again. With Arya's wand still in his hand, he started fixing the table and the benches that were broken around due to the duel. Both Walter and Crumb were equally tired, as they kept heavily breathing when they suddenly heard some noises. They looked back at Draco casually fixing things as he walked back towards them with a pleasant smile. Since both of you seem extremely tired, how about we call it a tie? No, I can defeat him. Crumb grumbled, still not being able to hide his heavy breaths. I am not going to let him win this one. You both are tired, so how about change to seconds? I will play for Walter here. Crumb looked back at his friends who were tied up by Draco with disappointment. He himself knew he couldn't do much as well. Though he was quite curious about the prince, he knew he was way too tired to fight him right now. Or are you both going to keep fighting until some of the guards or the teachers show up? Draco continued as he raised his eyebrows. One of you is already suspended, and I can see you don't really want that. So how about we all just act like proper gentlemen and get over this for now at least? Crumb stared at Draco for a while and then back at Walter as he snorted and turned back around. He waved his wand, casting a spell as he released his friends from Draco's spell and walked out with them. Let's leave as well. Draco said to Walter as he looked around the students, who seemed quite eager to meet him for some reason. I didn't know this was going to be so annoying. But I am still hungry. No time for that. Draco pulled Walter as he walked outside the room, ignoring everyone's gazes, afraid to spark any unnecessary conversations. Arya casually walked out with them and started leading them to somewhere outside of the castle, as they finally reached to a nearby gazebo right behind the castle. Walter, who was tired, immediately slumped over the bench, while Arya and Draco sat face to face with one another. So how much do you know? Not much, but I do know why you're here and who you're here for. Draco didn't say anything and just nodded, signaling her to continue. As I previously mentioned, you are here because of the accident that took place over your summer vacation, the one with Pius. Arya said, and as far as I know, he was manipulated by someone, and that someone is the one you came here to look for. So you're telling me you knew he was coming? Walter said with an annoyed tone. Why didn't you tell me before about it? Because if I did, you wouldn't have gotten in a fight with Crumb in the first place. Arya said casually, as if she was used to Walter's questions, and trust me when I say that it was necessary. For Merlin's sake, can you stop with your vague talks? I didn't understand you back when I was 7, and I am for no reason going to understand you now. Draco said, sighing. Could you just continue without ignoring me for a single second? Ryan, you're looking for Ryan Adams, right? Arya said with a straight face. Wait, you mean that Ryan, the one from the 5th year? You know him? Draco asked. It's really hard to ignore a wizard in wheelchairs. Walter said, shrugging. Why are you even looking for him? He called Draco out here. Arya said again, surprising Draco by a lot. Don't look at me like that, there is much that I don't know about. How did you? How do I know? Arya cut Draco off. You aren't the only special one here, and if you do want to know why, I am certain you will figure out within 2 weeks. The match? Draco got the hint about what Arya was saying. You want me to join in the weird bet you've got going? That's your decision to make. Arya said, sighing, and I really hope you make the right one. Draco stayed silent for a while. I will think about it later, so how about you tell me everything you know about this Ryan, first. Ryan Adams, no one really know much about him in this school other than the fact that he isn't a pureblood but a half. As Walter mentioned, he goes around in a wheelchair, keeps to himself as far as I know. Arya said, not exceptional in studies, average in magic, potions, and everything. That's all I can tell you about him. Draco frowned as he looked at Arya, wanting to see if she was lying, but there were no trace of it whatsoever, so he is just average in every other way excluding the facts that he doesn't have any friends. Yes. Arya nodded, quite shocking in fact. I never would have known if our fate didn't intertwine. What do you mean? I mean, he is dangerous, I do know that, but I don't know how. Arya said, I know it's confusing, but this is honestly all I know. I can swear on a vow if you don't believe me. Walter, who didn't really seem to understand what was going on, just looked back and forth between Draco and Arya. Draco, I don't know what's happening, but I can assure that Arya is not lying, she never does. Fine, I'll trust you for now. Draco said, but a bit of explanation would really help. Believe me, if I didn't trust you as well, I wouldn't initiate this conversation with you in the first place. Arya said, you're not the only one with your life on the line here. So I just ask you to be patient and not reckless. Chapter 168. So what's her deal? Draco asked Walter as they started walking back into the castle. It's not really my secret to tell, Draco. Walter shrugged, but I have never seen Arya this serious before. All I can tell you this moment is that we can only trust her, besides I don't know the full story about what is going on as well. Draco stayed quiet, seeing Walter didn't want to reveal things, though he had some suspicions he didn't exactly know what was going on, so he didn't continue bothering him. After a while, when they reached the boys' dormitory, Draco finally broke the silence. Do you at least know where is his room, at least? You mean Ryan's? Walter asked. I do know about it, but didn't Arya tell us to not do anything for now? Are you really expecting me to put all my trust and faith in someone who I haven't met in years? Draco said, frowning a little. I don't even know if I can trust you here, so are you going to tell me where he lives or not? If not, I can figure things out on my own. Walter took a deep breath as he sighed heavily. He doesn't live here with rest of us. Due to his condition, Karkaroff granted him a separate room on the ground floor where he can live without bothering all of us. Draco nodded and headed outside the dormitory, with Walter following behind him crazily soon after. What are you doing here? Don't you remember what Arya said to us? Walter said, breathing heavily. You can't win this fight alone, though I can't do much. With me here at least you are not alone, so at least according to her you wouldn't die. Your girlfriend might be really mad at us. Draco teased a little with a smile on his face. What do you mean? Lucius was back in Romania in the same auction shop he was before with Draco. He was sitting in front of Merc, the owner of the place, who was casually sitting with his leg crossed. As I said, Mr. Malfoy, Mr. Black is sure to be in deep trouble. Merc said, the threat that I was talking about when we last met is sure to attack back. Get to the point. Lucius said, frowning. What threat are you talking about? The Vila Queen, of course. Merc said with a monotone voice, though I don't know why. I heard the Queen is looking for something precious that was stolen from her and now she wants it back. But what does any of that have to do with Draco, unless... My suspicions are as good as yours, Mr. Malfoy. Merc said, taking a deep sigh. For now, she is moving very slowly, as she can't exactly take big steps without alerting the Ministry, but slowly but surely she is likely to attack. I have to warn Draco. Lucius stood up from his seat, wanting to leave as soon as possible. Mr. Malfoy, the Queen has yet to leave Romania, but I am not sure how long is she going to wait. Merc said, since you came here back again, I shall give you a good suggestion for your shopping last time. Mr. Black is likely to be safe in Durmstrang for now. How did you? It is my profession, of course. Merc said, cutting off Lucius. As I was saying, Mr. Black is safe back in Durmstrang, but others around him aren't, so you should use this time trying to think of a way to stop her instead and protect those around him first. You mean? Merc just shrugged his shoulders and didn't say anything else on the topic. I have been thinking about moving my business to London as well, so next time when I have some information I can inform you if you like it. Send me an owl. Lucius said, walking out of the room. As much as he thought about it, Merc was right. For now, Draco was safe in Durmstrang, and as he remembered, Draco didn't want to be bothered when he was there. Now that he thought about it, he now figured what Draco said about learning the Fidelius charm was really important, especially considering Narcissa and the twins. Lucius made up his mind to first transfer them to a safe place and go about dealing with this Vila Queen. Knock knock. Are you sure he is in there? How would I know that? Draco said as he tried knocking a couple of times again. But wondering why he was being so gentle towards an enemy, he turned towards Walter and asked, open the door for me, will you? Alhamura. Walter chanted, taking out his wand. What, can't you do it on your own? It's a long story. Draco said, opening the door and walking in carefully. He looked around the place to find just an ordinary room. There were books around the place, neatly kept, but none of them were exceptional in any way. Seems like he isn't here. Well, I guess I have to leave a message then. Draco, seeing no one was around, he took out his wand and wrote on the wall with huge bold letters. For someone who talks big, you sure like to hide a lot. I know that you already have heard about me being here, so why hide? Let us settle things quick and get over with it. Your other half. Your other half. Walter said, raising his eyebrows. What does that even mean? Well, no idea. Draco shrugged. I just replied the same way he did, but now that I think about it, it seems a bit weird. Do you think he's like into boys? Walter said with different emotions written on his face. I mean, is that why you're really here? Shut up. Draco said, checking the place carefully once again. There isn't any magical enhancement anywhere. So what do you think this guy's deal is? I don't know. Draco said as he turned back around and started walking out. I mean, I don't even know what this guy wants. The way he acts around this place is very unlikely to how I expected his personality to be when I first got his letter. I thought he would be some sort of tyrant wanting to be famous, but the way he has presented himself to the people here is completely unexpected. It feels like the word average is just meant for him. Now that I've noticed it, it's really creepy. Walter said, I mean, I have seen some weird and peculiar wizards and witches, but even compared to them he seems just too out of place. So perfectly average. I have kept wondering why he is even here, Draco mumbled. In fact, to this day after he got the letter he couldn't figure out why Ryan was in Durmstrang in the first place when he could have easily gone to Hogwarts if he wanted to. Even if his parents forced him to, considering the power of control he has shown, it should be really easy to just force them to change their opinion or even kill them. Draco had Snape look at Ryan's profile before, but even then the signs of his parents were nowhere to be seen. It was like they never existed in the first place. First Draco suspected that Ryan had killed them, but the theory didn't hold any proof to support it. Walter, if you had all the knowledge in the world but lacked the power to use it, what would you do? Chapter 169. Me. Well, I would just find a way to get powerful then. Walter said as he closed the door behind them. I mean, if I have all the knowledge in the world, it shouldn't be that hard, right? Exactly. Draco said as he nodded, but what if the only way the person could get power was by using someone? If that's the only way, then the result will depend on how crazy the other person is. Walter slowed his voice down as he stared at the person in front of him. You went there, didn't you? The person was none other than Arya, who seemed to be just casually standing there waiting for them. Deal with your lover's quarrel. Draco said as he patted the nervous Walter. As he began walking away from them, I'll be in the room then. You're taking a wrong approach to this situation, Draco. Arya said as Draco passed by her. I told you, you can't win this fight alone. Then give me a reason not to go and kill a guy in a wheelchair right now. Draco stopped and stared directly into Arya's eyes. This man threatened to harm my family, my friends, so give me one reason not to find him right away and end it. Because you're weak. Arya said, not backing off from Draco's gaze, and with the way you're going, you'll not only kill yourself but Walter as well. There was a deafening silence in the place, with Draco and Arya just staring at one another. Seeing the weirdness between the two of them, Walter started awkwardly laughing. Hey, let's leave this here. Walter said as he pushed Draco a little. I will show you around the school. I mean, it's good to know the place better before we do something, right? Draco didn't say much as he walked along with Walter, not saying anything back. Calm down. Walter whispered to Arya as he took Draco along with him. You can leave, I'm fine. Draco said after he calmed down a little. You should be with her. I mean, clearly, she has more issues than me. Things are really complicated, Draco. Walter sighed, but trust me, she isn't that bad as she comes out to be. Something must be wrong. Like what? Draco sneered, and I know I am not the only one here. She already has problems with Crumb, doesn't she? The Crumb situation is a bit different. Walter said, trying to explain. You know how our school was the House of Grindelwald for a while, right? Draco nodded as he got interested in what Walter had to say. Grindelwald, being the lunatic he was, has left several Deathly Hallows signs all over the school. Walter continued. You do know about the Deathly Hallows, don't you? I do. Yeah, so Arya got suddenly interested in finding some information about these Deathly Hallows but was found out by Crumb along the way. Walter said, I don't know much, but from what I've heard, Crumb had lost one of his family members to Grindelwald like many others, so he started bothering Arya about it and the whole fight broke out. What does she have anything to do with the Hallows? Draco asked, confused. I don't know. Walter shrugged his shoulders. Along the many years that I've known her, I stopped asking these questions a long time ago because I know she wouldn't do something if it didn't have any purpose in it. No matter how much you trust her, it's really not a good idea to show such blind faith in her. Draco said, things are really messy here in this world. Walter just smiled and didn't continue on about the topic. This is the only library in the school. Walter pointed at the huge door in front of him. There were 2 guards on each side of the door standing there with full attention. can we go in? I knew you would be interested in it. Walter said, let's go. Both of them walked near the door and it opened itself as soon as they got near it. The library was normal like the one they had in Hogwarts, but it seemed to have a bit fewer books. I think you will like it here. Walter said as he showed Draco around the place in a low whisper. Even though the place was empty, there is nothing here such as a restricted section, so every book is out there for you to grab, even the ones about dark arts. But it's not a good thing to obsess about them openly, as people will certainly look at you weird. Isn't that just contradicting? Draco said as he picked out a simple spell book. I mean, don't you guys have a dark arts class? Yeah, but with the history of this place and with Voldemort and everything, things really are complicated. Walter said, it's not that there's any rule against it, but the students themselves have developed some unwritten rules for it, and with your fame, it's really not a good idea to have weird rumors spread about you. Sigh. There really is a lot of problems in the wizarding world. Draco said, sighing. By the way, why is no one here? I don't even see the librarian. Most students take the book of their liking and leave with it, so there are not many people who stick around reading it here. Walter said, as for the librarian, there are only guards here. All the books are enchanted with a returning spell, so after a month no matter where the book is hidden it's going to return back to the library, so we really don't have a need for them. So what's the deal with these guards, by the way? Draco asked. They don't really interfere much with how the school works. They just have certain duties assigned to them and they just follow it. Walter said as he looked strangely at Draco, why do I get the feeling that you've something bad planned in your mind? Not really. Draco innocently said, do you know how many guards there are in total and how powerful each one of them is? They are certainly powerful enough to be an Auror, at least, Walter said. As for how many of them are here, as far as I know, it's less than 30. You don't seem certain about it. There are rumors that there are more, but honestly I haven't really seen them, so I can't be exactly sure. Walter said, and I suggest you stay away from them. They have this rule to not bother any student in general unless they are ordered by Igor himself, and the rule goes both ways. Draco nodded, keeping things in mind. Draco was not sure he could trust anyone here in Durmstrang, especially the older ones. With Ryan's character in mind, it wasn't far-fetched of him to use any resources he could gather, so being at least aware of the surrounding potential enemies was the least he could do right now. Draco and Walter walked around the library looking at the books. Most of the books in there were something that Draco had already read before in both Malfoy Manor and Black House, so he wasn't really that impressed by it. After collecting a couple of books that he found interesting they got out of the library. So how long is your suspension for? Till the bet is over. Really? Draco said, frowning, I can talk to Igor if you want, I am sure he will be more than willing to owe me a favor. Don't bother with my vacation. Walter said, it's hard finding that around here. Chapter 170. Next day, Draco woke up very early to prepare for classes. Unlike Hogwarts, Durmstrang had a system of starting early. The first class he had was something he had been waiting for a long time. Martial magic. The class was a practical class, consisting of a couple of different training routines and followed by duels at the end of each month. Draco put on his uniform and looked over at Walter, who was sleeping as if there was no tomorrow, wondering how he managed to be on classes on time before he was suspended. Draco walked out of the room, to find some of the male students sitting around in the dormitory chatting with one another. Since yesterday, Draco had avoided people all the time, but this time it felt like it was impossible to do so with some of the people already looking at him. Draco felt a huge headache heading his way, so to avoid that he decided to take the first step as he went forward to introduce himself. The moment he went forward all the people's attention shifted on him, so he didn't have to call everyone out. Hello. As some of you might already know, I am Draco Black, a transfer student from Hogwarts. Draco said, doing a normal noble bow, I will be here for 6 months, so I hope we can get along well. Especially my peers who are in the same year as me. The wizards here in Durmstrang, though seemed moody, weren't really as stiff as Draco imagined them to be. As they cheerfully greeted him back and one by one began introducing themselves. Out of the corner of his eye, Draco noticed Crumb followed by a group of people leaving the room without caring much about him. They are really a pain in the ass. A wizard who was beside him said, they act as if they are different from us, even though we share the same roots, but I guess that's the difference between half-bloods and us. Draco looked at the boy carefully, wondering who he was. The boy was almost as tall as Draco and was more on the muscular side. With bright green eyes under his spectacles, the boy in front of him looked exactly like a buffed-up version of Potter. I am sorry, I didn't get your name. I am Albert Sallow, it's really nice to meet with the prince. The boy extended his hand. We are in the same class, so let's be friends. Draco shook his hand, looking at him with slight confusion. As if the other party noticed it, Albert smiled and said, we have some family secrets that make us larger and appear older than normal wizards. I am really in the same year as you. I apologize for my rudeness, Draco said. Is the Sallow family not from here? Yes, we come from a place not too close from here. Albert said, so it isn't surprising that you haven't heard of us. But I can assure you that my blood is pure as it gets. Don't worry about it. Draco said, I don't really care much about purebloods or half-bloods. As expected of the prince, these petty things don't bother you. Albert said with a huge laugh, we should get going or else we might be late for our class. Draco looked at the wizards around packing and leaving as well, so he nodded. So is Crumb here like the leader of the half-bloods or something? Not exactly. Albert said, people do follow him but he isn't strong enough to completely control the people around him. They are more like his fan to be exact as fame is all he has. Draco nodded. Forget about him. Albert said, I really want to see what the prince fight likes. I heard about you single-handedly killing a lot of the dark wizard and aurors who were following Pius. Rumors are always exaggerated, you should know I had some help from the ministry, right? Draco said, also feel free to call me Draco, the title really doesn't fit with me that well. Sure, but you shouldn't be too humble. Albert said, I could sense your magic yesterday in the dining hall where you casually rendered 3 wizards useless in a matter of seconds. They aren't professionals, to say the least, but they are still in their 5th year. You could sense my magic. Yeah, I am not completely human. Albert casually said, but hey, we are still the same, so it wasn't that hard to figure that out. Draco frowned a little as he glared at Albert but the other party had no reaction to it whatsoever as if he really couldn't care less about it. Our family has a very special giant blood mixed in it. Albert said, though not as powerful as yours, it still gives us a lot of advantage. Like strength, more magic but it still really makes me wonder what your race is mixed with. In all honesty, I have never seen anyone like that before. Draco after being pointed out finally noticed something different about Albert. The aura around him was really different from a normal wizard but that got him wondering about Silas. Though his aura was more violent it was still something similar to it in a sense. Albert read Draco's silence as something else so he quickly apologized, I am sorry, I didn't mean to intervene in your affairs. It's just people around me didn't really fit with me too well so I was just excited finding someone else like me. Who else knows about your condition? No one else. Albert shook his head, announcing it doesn't really seem like a good idea. Let's keep it that way. Draco said, also pretend that this conversation never happened. Albert felt a sense of urgency looking at Draco's smiling face, I don't know what we were talking about at all. Draco nodded, looking at him Draco felt he was quite gullible like Hagrid. If someone told him that Albert was a love child of Hagrid and Harry, Draco wouldn't really be surprised. After the casual silence, Draco and Albert reached the ground where there were many students around. Every student joins the training together. Albert said seeing Draco's confusion, it's all about strength in Durmstrang and not age, so people could really care less about having joint classes. That's why so many people admire you here. Young and strong, you're like the walking dream of a lot of students in Durmstrang. Draco thought Albert was exaggerating things but the attitude of the teacher in front of him made him slightly uncomfortable. The teacher was probably the strongest looking wizard he had ever seen. His tall and big stature made him look like a heavyweight lifter in the Muggle world. The man smiled at him with a nodding gesture. Draco weirded out, didn't let it show in his face as he nodded back in greeting and followed Albert to where the second year were situated. Every student were standing in a long line, according to their year. Attention! The teacher shouted as everyone looked at him. Chapter 171. Do we really need to do all this? Draco said huffing as he had been running for God knows how long carrying weights. It's usually the case. Albert said as he ran behind him casually with not even a single drop of sweat on his face, according to the professor, for martial magic, we need to develop enough stamina first to move around as most of the time it's all about how quickly you dodge a spell. Draco made a twisted face as he kept running on and on. Draco himself did some basic cardio before to keep himself in shape but he never did so with enchanted bags that weighed more every minute. And stop. Draco heard the teacher order finally as he dropped to the ground breathing for his life. He looked around and was glad that he wasn't the only one that was as tired as he was. While everyone was resting, the teacher started evaluating the student performance and giving them some tips. Normally Draco would be very attentive in things he didn't know much about but something suddenly caught the corner of his eye. Far away from the training ground, there was someone in a wheelchair sitting beneath a tree watching them. Draco's eyes widened as he realized who it might be. "You can see that guy over there, right?" he asked Albert to make sure it wasn't an illusion of some sort. Albert turned his head to look in the same direction as Draco, to see a figure sitting by. "Oh, that's a senior student here in Durmstrang. I heard he comes around every day to view the training even though he can't participate due to his condition. Poor guy, he might have wanted to join us." Draco nodded as he was about to stand up. He had been here for a whole day now, and finally seeing his reason for being here, he didn't want to back off. He was just about to rise up when suddenly someone pulled him back down. He looked back to see Arya just glaring at him. "We're in the middle of our class, so not a good idea." Draco snorted as he released her hands from his and turned back to the figure only to see no one there anymore. Draco looked around the place but there were no signs of him at all. Draco looked back at Arya just to see her casually ignore him. Classes then went on as usual, with potion, herbology and dark arts. Draco was of course very proficient in both herbology and potion, so he didn't have to worry much at all. Due to his recognition as a potion genius even before he had the whole prince thing going on, the teachers weren't surprised at all. Draco felt uncomfortable with all the praises as he tried to ignore them, but things kept getting annoying as usual. In the dark arts class, Silas sleazily walked into the classroom. Against Draco's expectations this time Arya didn't ignore him and sat right next to him, pushing Albert away. Albert, getting confused, didn't want to say anything due to his shy nature and sat back far away in an empty seat. "What do you want?" Draco asked as he looked at Arya. "Nothing at all," Arya said casually, "but are you really trying to pull in more casualties than there needs to be?" "You're talking about Albert?" Draco raised his eyebrows. "In all honesty, I could really care less about it. He's the one acting close to me. And I don't see why it affects you in any way. You having your suspicion isn't wrong, but I'll tell you this, not a single student here knows what is going on." Arya said, "They are all innocent, so it's best if you stay away from them. And you will be fine sitting next to me then. I am already a part of this whether you want me to or not." Arya said, "I was always destined to be." "Good for you." Draco said, rolling his eyes, not even trying to understand the vagueness in her words. "So is it you being related to the Deathly Hallows? You heard about it, huh?" Arya said lazily, not being bothered by it at all. "I was trying to help you out a bit, but some students here wouldn't really allow me." "Help me?" "Of course." Arya said, "Your future, no, our future is interconnected with it. I don't know to what extent, but I know it is, in one way or the other." "Are you some sort of seer now?" Draco said sarcastically, but Arya's response shocked him a bit. "Took you long enough." "Wait. What?" Draco said out loud as every student in the classroom stared at him. "Is there a problem, Mr. Black?" Silas asked, looking at him in a confused manner. "It's nothing." Draco said, "I'm sorry." "It's okay." Silas said, nodding, "But please be more attentive in class." Draco nodded as he stared back at Arya. "You don't have to look at me like that." Arya said, "I wasn't going to tell you this right away, but you really are bringing a lot of unknown factors in one by one. Does Walter know?" "He does." Arya nodded. "In fact, he's the first person that knows about this. Let's talk after class." Draco wanted to ask more, but seeing Silas glare at him from time and time again, he figured it wasn't really a good idea. Though he couldn't pay attention in the class after such revelations, he still managed to get by. A seer is a gifted wizard or witch who has the ability to see into the future with their inner eye. Seers are 1 in a million due to such gifts being hard to come around. True seers are even more rare, as their predictions are almost always the truth. Draco didn't know what type of seer Arya was, but it still didn't stop him from wondering about certain things. "Are you allowed in there?" Draco asked as he followed Arya back towards the boys' dormitory. "No one will be around here this time," Arya said, casually entering the room and heading towards Walter and Draco's room. Walter, who was somehow still sleeping, jumped out of the bed as Arya slammed the door shut to purposefully wake him up. "Is the class over?" Walter said, rubbing his eyes, not caring about Arya's actions as if he was already used to it. "It is," Arya said, sitting on the bed. "I have something important to tell, so the two of you have to listen carefully." "You mean that?" Walter questioned with his eyebrows raised. "He knows," Arya said as he took out her wand and cast an anti-eavesdrop spell. Then she turned to look at Draco. "Let's take a vow, so you won't have any trust-related issues against me." Draco didn't disagree with it and gladly extended his hands. Arya and Draco turned to Walter, who had a complicated look on his face, but he finally gave up. Let me get my wand. Will you, Arya Grimblehawk, tell me, Draco Black, the complete and honest truth? I will. And do you agree to not betray me in any way whatsoever? I do. Now it's my turn. Arya said, will you, Draco Black, agree to not act irrationally until the problem is solved and willingly move according to my plan as long as it doesn't go against your moral? I will. Draco said after a moment of silence. So now that's over. Is it true that you're a seer? Draco asked Arya, but his gaze never left Walter's either. Chapter 172. It was kind of hard to believe at first, but when things started going as she said it would, it didn't really take that long. Walter said, shrugging his shoulders, understanding what Draco wanted to hear, I didn't really mean to hide it, but I didn't expect you to tell him things much sooner. I wouldn't have, but your friend here started going off-road again and again. Arya said, futures are already complicated and him being stubborn as he is isn't really a good thing. Is it about Albert? Yes. Arya nodded, the future that I saw didn't include him in our plans, so with you befriending him the future might have a different outcome. What did you see? Draco and Walter asked at the same time. Sigh. The vision I saw was you coming in Durmstrang trying to fight Ryan on your own, but he manages to get one over you and possess your body, completely killing your soul from within. Draco stayed silent for a while until he finally got what Ryan wanted from him. He's the mind and I am the body. What? Walter asked. Nothing. Draco shook his head, so that's the only thing you saw, me getting killed? No, after he got your body he began annihilating everyone in our school including me and Walter. Arya shook her head as she said in a heavy tone, but future has endless possibilities and I only see one. Just when I was thinking about what I was going to do, I stumbled across the Deathly Hallows sign carved in our hallway, which somehow triggered another vision. A future where you, me, Walter along with several other people managed to defeat Ryan by working together. A future where you didn't work alone and won. So the reason you've been so secretive about it is? It's because I want things to go according to my vision. The future that I saw already have two different possibilities that I know of. I don't know about you, but I want to live, so I want things to go according to my second vision. Not a single person less and not a single person more. Is he that strong? You both might end up in a tie, but I don't know if you are aware of this or not, but he has an army on his side, Arya said, so trying to come up with a plan against him with you alone should just be avoided. Remember, he knows this school better than you do, and staying in the sidelines for so long, I wonder how many traps he has created over the years. And as I said, if you lose we all will, whether we like it or not. There was silence among all of them as no one spoke a single word. Everyone trying to process all the things properly. So what do you think we should do? Walter broke the silence, looking at both of them. We have to wait for the right time. Arya said, also the future I told you about has something to do with the Deathly Hallows, it's either that or it has something to do with Grindelwald, who carved the symbol himself. Isn't he dead? Walter asked. No, he is still locked in his own private prison cell. Draco said, thinking about Arya's plan, how many men do you think we will need? Not much, but still enough to overwhelm them. Draco nodded as he took out his luggage from an expandable pouch that he had been carrying. From there he took out a couple of documents related to Ryan. This is all the information I have collected against him. Draco said as he laid down the map. The areas that are marked are all the bases where Ryan has collected his little army. Annoying as it might be, I have suspected there to be at least 100 wizards and more than 30 werewolves. Is that it? Walter asked naively, not knowing the exact battle power they contained. 10 wizards are enough to handle a dragon, let alone 100, and not only that, they also have enough werewolves to infect or kill everyone in Durmstrang in an instant. As far as I know, yes. Draco nodded. I did have some plans of my own though. Let's hear it. My plan followed of me attacking Ryan here in Durmstrang first, Draco said, though I am not sure how I want him chased out of Durmstrang. After that, he will likely return to one of these bases, so before that happens, I want to sneakily attack the bases first, clearing as much ground as possible. Since many of the wizards are there due to the Imperius curse, so as long as we clear the ones that are controlling them, so we might not have to face all 100 wizards at once. How about the werewolves? They are the difficult part, but it should be fine as long as we manage to hunt them all down before full moon. Draco continued, if this works then our plans would be much simpler. Arya listened carefully and shook her head. Who are you going to get help from to defeat hundreds of wizards? The Aurors might leak the information during their investigation, and on the other hand, as you said, a lot of them are just being manipulated, so killing innocent people will bring consequences that you might not want to face. She is right, buddy. Walter said, the last I heard there weren't many people happy about the Aurors dying during the whole kidnapping period. Who said anything about killing them? Draco shook his head, we can just capture or knock them out, one by one. It's not like they are grouped up in a single place. How many of them are located in a base? 12 to 13 people in a single camp, Draco said. As for the helpers, I have some people that are working under my father. Including me and 2 guests, I am hoping would show up. I believe we can win this. But it all amounts to working together at the same time, to not leave any traces behind. But even if that works, the flaw in your plan is still attacking Ryan alone. Arya said, I saw you die within these walls, so we need to think of something else. There is no other way. Draco said, shaking his head, even if you two were to join the battle, I reckon it will cause any significant impact. And due to your vision, I am having second thoughts about collecting people here to join my cause and fight with me. As I said, it won't work. Arya insisted on her words, I can't take a chance. Then what do you want me to do? Draco said with a bit of frustrated tone, do you really expect me to grow stronger in a couple of months to overwhelm him alone, or do you expect my plan to work out on its own without me interfering? Okay, calm down you two. Walter stepped in between them, both of you right in your own decisions and planning. Arya, you don't have any plans to solve this issue, and Draco, do you have a good plan? Things might not work out the way you intended to. He's right. Arya sighed, do you know something else about Ryan that we don't? You don't have to spill everything you don't want to, but I for sure know that you know something that we don't. I did forget to mention that the man is very good at manipulating other people with magic. Draco said, dodging the question, to the point where he can completely latch onto someone and control them like puppets even though he stays far away from them. I have never heard of a spell like that before, and it feels more like the upgraded version of the Imperious Curse. Chapter 173. Can you explain in detail? Arya asked as she narrowed her eyes. Pius was the prime example of what I just said. Draco continued as he tried remembering the details of the incident. Pius wasn't a minion of Ryan but was manipulated by him. The manipulation was to such perfection, that it felt like Ryan had just drunk some polyjuice potion and was now pretending to be Pius as he stood in front of me. If that wasn't enough, he tried taking control of Theodore, who was captured by him at the time, but luckily his plan failed. What changed? Draco went silent for a while as he recalled the incident. As far as I think, I feel it was due to our blood pact. You have a blood pact with Theodore? Walter asked as he raised his eyebrows. When did you two get so close? After you all left, we were the only remaining ones, so why not? Draco said, shrugging his shoulders, but as I was saying, I think the blood pact affected Theodore as he couldn't act against out on me. We all know that blood pacts are more serious than the unbreakable vow, so with it, I feel like it's hard for even Ryan to control someone. Like in my example, Theodore couldn't attack me as we have a not harming each other thing going in our pact. Let's do it then. Arya said after thinking for a while. Do what? The pact. Arya said, we already have a contract among us, so you know I can't betray you, and then again, if this pact stops us from harming one another, then isn't it helpful considering how Ryan could manipulate one of us to gather pieces of information? True. Draco agreed. I am sure he has eyes and ears all over Durmstrang, so seeing we are all getting chummy, he might have a different plan for us ready. What are we waiting for then? Arya said, taking out her wand. Wait. Doesn't my opinion matter? Walter said, looking sad, but no one gave him sympathy he wanted. Not really, I mean, since you know all this, I can't let you go without signing a contract first, Draco said. I thought we were friends, so I didn't think I needed to ask this. Yes, Walter, I have tried pushing you towards the good light for a long time now, but looking at it now I feel like I've failed. Arya added, do you really want to act like that instead of just helping a friend? Don't make me look bad. Walter said in a frustrated tone, causing the two of them to chuckle. With the mood lightened, the three of them sat in a triangulated position. The three made a small cut in both their hands with their wands and interlaced them in a triangulated manner. As they made their oath of never betraying each other in any way possible and never want harm for the other as they chanted the required mantra. Soon the three glowing drops of blood raised from their palms and mingled into one. A vial started to shape around it, enclosing the drop, signifying that the deal was struck. Draco captured the vial, which was slightly larger than the previous one he made with Theodore. Who's going to keep it? Walter asked. I will. Draco said, at least I have some protection against it. Where? Arya asked with her eyes furrowed. Draco pondered for a while, but since the three of them had already had a blood pact along with the fact that now they had to battle together, they at least needed a place to train. So Draco decided to come clean about his suitcase. Do you think you can put up more security charms around the place? That's my forte. Arya said, standing up as she chanted 3 different spells covering the whole room again. One on the outside is the external layer. As long as someone enters the door we will be aware of it. The second one gives the effect that the room is empty, and the final one is a shield type charm, so it will take a lot of effort to break it, and we can at least have some time to do what we're doing. What are we doing exactly? This. Draco said, putting his suitcase in front of them as he opened it. Let's go. At first, the two of them were confused as to what he was talking about, but when they saw Draco jump inside the case they finally realized what he was talking about. They looked at one another and jumped in as well. Going in they saw the scenery suddenly change. The suitcase seemed to have a world on its own. What in the Merlin name is this, Draco? Walter asked, confused and amazed at the same time. Follow me. Draco said, leading the two. It's an expandable suitcase. Yeah, I get that, but why is there a dragon here? There a dragon? Where? Walter looked around but couldn't find it until Arya grabbed hold of his chin and directed it towards the empty field a bit far away. Walter gulped as he finally laid eyes of the dragon. Though not as large as a fully grown dragon, it was still big enough to kill someone. The dragon, which he recognized to be a Norwegian back, burned the meat that was placed on the ground and ate it. Bloody hell, why didn't you say you have a dragon before? Walter said, his eyes opened wide. With this, we can win the fight easily. Not so easy as you think. Draco said, last time when we battled in Romania, Ryan figured most of the creatures that I carried with me, along with my battle power. I later realized that all the things he did were probably just to grasp the limit of my ability. What other creature? Just as Walter was about to ask, he suddenly saw a huge 3-headed dog in front of him. Since he was so busy watching the dragon he didn't really notice the obvious huge dog in front of him. Draco was more than close with Fluffy these days, so he didn't quite require his favorite ball to be near him. Though he could still hear him growling, looking at Arya and Walter. Calm down, boy. Draco said, it's okay. Fluffy looked at him and then back at the two strangers. Though he stopped growling he didn't quit staring at him. Draco let it be as he went near the house he had built, and from within his shirt, he took out the vial they had just created. He stretched his hands forward and the vial itself lifted up and went inside the house through a specific small hole as it began revolving the first vial he had kept. That should be safe. Draco said, casually returning back, but looking at Arya's questioning look he answered, no one can open the case instead of me, and even if they did manage to get in forcefully, all my defenses would go up along with all the creatures that will be released. Master, it good to see you. One of the elves came up towards them while they were on the verge of starting another argument again. May I ask if you need anything? Not right now. Draco shook his head, but suddenly something crossed his mind as he had a huge grin on his face. But I may need you and the other elves do some work for me. Anything for you, master. The elf said sincerely, not understanding, but Walter and even Arya felt a shiver run down their spine seeing Draco's villain face. Chapter 174. Days went and came, but things didn't really change back in Durmstrang. Draco didn't feel threatened, nor did he feel he was in enemy territory, as his life went mostly normal. He met with Ryan several times, but before he could reach him the other party would just disappear. Draco knew Ryan was mocking him. The whole showing up and disappearing charade was all about, what can you do to me? But with their planning in place, Draco didn't let those petty things get to his head. It was Christmas. Since he had asked no one to send him any gifts, everyone followed suit and didn't. He woke up to the sound of Walter snoring. Annoyed, he rubbed his eyes as he cursed his luck, now feeling a little bit of annoyance Theodore might have felt due to his late-night activities. Ever since the day of the planning, Walter and Arya had stuck together, with them not even going home for Christmas to stick around him. Draco walked around the empty hall as he made his way to the hall for breakfast. Since not all students went back to Durmstrang, there were still some students around, but his eyes quickly caught the guy in a wheelchair. Not going to run from me this time, are you? Draco said as he sat next to none other than Ryan, who seemed to be enjoying his breakfast. I thought I'll give you an early morning Christmas gift. Ryan spoke his first words to Draco after 2 months of him being here as they looked at one another. What do you think will stop me from killing you here and now? Draco said as he lifted his wand from within his robe as a knife floated around mid-air. I don't even need a complex spell to get you, just a basic one and you're done. But you won't, because I know you want a decent future. Ryan said, kill me now and no matter the connections you have you'll still be in Azkaban rotting away. True, but that doesn't mean I can't harm you. Draco said as the knife flew directly towards Ryan's eyes, who didn't even flinch, but the knife took a deep dive and stabbed him in his leg. Paralyzed, huh? Draco said casually as he took a sandwich from Ryan's plate. "I wonder if you'll wince if I stabbed you in the stomach though." As he was talking, the knife never stopped as it kept stabbing one leg after another as blood filled his seat. Looking annoyed, Ryan took out his wand and flicked the knife away, healing his wounds. "Did I break you or something?" Ryan asked. "I think so." Draco said casually. "You know, people in our previous world would surely call me crazy, as I want nothing more than just to kill you right here and now. As long as you're dead, things go back to the way they were before with me in control. And I thought I was to play the villain in this story. You were, but I guess that roles suit me better. Draco Malfoy, the bully, and the bad guy." Draco said, "But are you really going to pretend that you don't want to do the same?" "I do, of course." Ryan nodded, "But I plan to do much more." Draco felt something probe his mind, but he quickly pulled his defenses up, shooting a fork at his hands again, causing Ryan to flinch. "Looks like you have done much better than last time," Ryan said as he pulled out the fork from his hand. "You didn't even notice it before." "I guess so." Draco shrugged, "But you've remained the same, for which I am very thankful. To be honest, all this time I wondered about how to defeat you and how to win against you, but slowly I came to realize that you're just an empty husk of a shell, as I am." Ryan glared at Draco, continued, "As you said, I can't kill you in front of all these people, but neither can you. I mean, you're more pathetic than me. This is our first time talking face to face and I've managed to stab you 28 times already. While you can't do anything but glare to keep up the whole pitiful boy in a wheelchair facade. From far away you might have chances of winning, and granted I don't know what you've planned, but as long as I am close to you, you and I both know that I don't need a wand to end your life." "You're correct." Ryan nodded, "But that doesn't make me weak, it makes me stronger. While your emotions will slowly begin to corrupt you." Draco rolled his eyes as he stood up. The whole corrupt things did raise some question, but he wasn't going to let it show in his face. "You better watch your back." Ryan hissed at him, "The game has just started. And I have already made the first move," Draco added as he left the hall. Going out, he took out a bunch of keys from within his robe, one of which was vibrating seriously. "Looks like this Christmas is getting even better by the minute." It had been 3 months since Draco had gone to Durmstrang. Since the whole dueling episode with Draco, Professor Lockhart had been teaching them seriously with everything he could muster, but ever since Draco went to Durmstrang, Lockhart had somehow again managed to fall back into his old ways. Some of his fans in school who were still around were at least happy that he had managed to get over his defeat, but the fact he pretended like Draco didn't even exist left some people to think that it was trauma at work. But it wasn't happiness for all people. Instead of teaching them about the spell and how to protect themselves, he read passages from his books to them and sometimes reenacted some of the more dramatic bits. He usually picked Harry to help him with these reconstructions. So far, Harry had been forced to play a simple Transylvanian villager whom Lockhart had cured of a babbling curse, a yeti with a head cold, and a vampire who had been unable to eat anything except lettuce since Lockhart had dealt with him. Harry was hauled to the front of the class during their very next defense against the dark arts lesson, this time acting a werewolf. Several times he wanted to refuse but would give up, pitying his condition. "Nice loud howl, Harry, exactly," and then, if you'll believe it, I pounced, like this, slammed him to the floor. Thus with one hand, I managed to hold him down, with my other, I put my wand to his throat. I then screwed up my remaining strength and performed the immensely complex Homorphous charm. He let out a piteous moan. "Go on, Harry, higher than that." "Good." The fur vanished, the fangs shrank, and he turned back into a man. Simple, yet effective, and another village will remember me forever as the hero who delivered them from the monthly terror of werewolf attacks. The bell rang and Lockhart got to his feet. "Homework, compose a poem about my defeat of the Wagga Wagga werewolf. Signed copies of Magical Me to the author of the best one." The class began to leave. Harry returned to the back of the room, where Ron and Hermione were waiting. "I wish I could join the Slytherins, for the first time in my life," Harry said frustratingly. "I mean, at least they don't have to attend the classes, and I am sure they are surpassing us in every level. I heard that Black left his notes for them." Ron said, nodding. "I am sure with it they can easily breeze through this year, let alone this subject. Just when I thought my initial doubts about Lockhart were wrong, he goes back to proving himself to be that same moronic professor we knew before. I know, I was actually glad that he was teaching us something nice for a change. Do you think the match with Black broke him or something?" Ron said as he quickly stood straight, looking back at Hermione, who he was sure was going to complain to him about talking bad about a teacher, but looking at Hermione she seemed to be lost in her own thoughts. Chapter 175. "Hermione. I think you're right," Hermione mumbled. "I know something is wrong but they just won't tell me." Ron and Harry thought they heard something wrong, as they looked back at her in confusion. Did you hear the same thing I did? I think so. Hermione rolled her eyes as she said, I know there's something going on in this school, I did before and after Colin, Justin Finch-Fletchley and even the ghost, nearly headless Nick, I am even more sure that it's not something simple. What do we do about it then? Ron said, I mean no matter what happens they still blame Harry so we need to help him if we can. It's not that I don't trust you Harry but you have to understand that being the same place every time petrification took place, is very weird. Hermione chose her word carefully as she said to Harry who already was starting to look uncomfortable, I think this has one way or the other has something to do with you. What makes you say that? Ron said but just then a familiar figure came towards them. Hello, Hermione. The person was none other than Theodore Nott, Draco's best buddy in school, I have bought you the things you have asked me for. Theodore said handing out a book and a pouch. Though, Polyjuice Potion seems easy to make it's very hard to control it as it has a bit of tendency to explode when things aren't done in order. Theodore said, Draco will surely kill me if he finds out that I am giving you all this stuff that might cause you some harm. Thank you, Theodore. Hermione said, don't worry I'll be careful. And Potter seems like you're faring off well. Theodore looked towards Harry, I heard that you become quite the popular interaction again considering how actually no one wants to interact with you. What are you trying to say Nott? Ron growled. The same thing everyone has in their mind, Weasley. Theodore said not paying attention to the redhead at all, why is that every time you're near something bad happens? Do you feel like someone is controlling you or something? Theodore, Hermione wanted to stop before Theodore took it too far but the other party just shook his head. Forgive me Hermione but this time I am not trying to insult. Theodore said, I am seriously curious. Harry wanted to say something back but he couldn't retort what Theodore just said, bad things did always happen when he was around, the first year he was the one who found the mess with the whole duel thing and they landed in Fluffy's doorstep which landed in them going on this whole trip with the Philosopher's Stone. Actually we wanted to have a chat about you with it. Hermione said, can we go somewhere a bit private? Potter and Weasley as well. Seeing Hermione nod, Theodore took them to an empty classroom they had been using during their free period to practice duels and stuff when Lockhart's classes were taking place. I can't believe they gave you a classroom. Hermione said looking around, Draco, sure did get lucky this time around. He has a deal with Dumbledore. Theodore said vaguely, so what do you want to talk about? We actually wanted to join the club, Hermione said making both Harry and Ron flinch. Hermione, as I have told you before you're more than welcome to join the club anytime. Theodore said, I heard you helped Draco with it so you're already a part of it. Thank you, Theodore, but I wanted Harry and Ron to be part of the club as well. I don't want, Ron was about to say something but Harry stopped him. Fine. Since we are only taking in second years this year they can join us. Theodore said, but before that, they have to take a test. Test? Harry asked. It's a basic test, Theodore said, it mostly covers the whole curriculum of the first year and second year. Of course, we don't expect you to be intelligent enough to do so yourself, so we will provide you with notes and after a week you'll take the test to at least know if you are good at remembering things. Who in the name built this system? Ron complained but when Hermione glared at him, he realized who did, Hermione you didn't tell us before. You were never interested. Hermione said, fair deal. Since I was the one who created the system I shouldn't play favoritism in this matter. Theodore nodded as he went over to the desk and pulled out 2 stacks of papers huge enough for Ron and Harry to already give up in their heads. You want us to finish this before a week? It's mostly basics, Ron. Hermione said, if you remember things from the first year then you should be able to pass easily. Isn't there another way? Harry asked still hopeful for he did not want to join Lockhart's classes anymore, even if it meant he had to join in with the Slytherins. Of course we do. Theodore said, a duel. Wait. Who instigated that? Hermione was the one to be surprised this time. Draco didn't tell you? Theodore shrugged, he decided that not every genius has to be all book smart as long as they can practically prove they have a talent they are allowed in. Who do I have to duel against? It would usually be Draco but since he's not here, it's going to be me. Theodore said, but you don't have to worry, I won't go full offensive since this is a test to see how powerful and handy with spells you are. Harry thought for a while and nodded, I want to enter through a duel. Good enough for me, so how about next Sunday? Theodore said, you should have enough time to prepare, right? Hermione wanted Harry to stop but the other party just shook his head. Hermione there's no way I can finish all that in a single week. Harry said, so I'd rather take my chance and try the duel. Harry I think Hermione is right. Ron added, what's keeping him from not playing fair? Weasley, unlike you, I have an honor I have to keep. Theodore said, also, I will swear an oath on the day of the duel to play fair. Fine, if that's the case, then I am in as well. Ron snorted, I'll see how fair you will play. You're welcome to do so. Theodore said, if that's all then I need to take my leave, Hermione. Hermione nodded as Theodore walked out of the classroom, but before he exited at the door he looked back at Harry and said, things will only be getting worse, so be prepared at least. Harry wasn't sure what Theodore meant, but he knew the message was for himself. What's this about Hermione? Ron, who was acting tough, suddenly slumped as soon as Theodore got out of the classroom. Why are we even joining with the Slytherins? Because I know that they know something about what's going on, so we need to get in the club to at least figure out what is it. Hermione said, Draco knew, but he wanted me to be safe, so he didn't tell me about it, but now with everyone blaming Harry, I can't help but pry. Draco was right, hanging out with you guys does always seem to drag me into troubles. Why? Harry asked, confused. He didn't know what to say. He knew what Draco said was correct, and honestly, he never had been much of a good friend to Hermione as he did with Ron. But the other party always stuck around, making him feel ashamed of himself. Why? It's simple, because we're friends. Hermione said, though Draco might be a bit mad at me, that hasn't stopped him from doing anything I didn't want him to as well, and besides he will understand where I am coming from. Let's stop chit-chatting and go prepare for your duel, I mean both of your duels. Chapter 176. What? Potter and Weasley? Back in the common room, Theodore was telling Pansy and Daphne what happened before. And as expected, Pansy wasn't too pleased with it. Well, as long as they do good we have nothing to complain about. Theodore said, and besides I need to keep an eye on Potter since he's been the one that I suspect the most. You're talking about the basilisk? Daphne asked, sighing, who knew this was going to be such a pain in the ass. I just wish it ends quickly. Are you sure it has something to do with Potter? He's connected with it one way or the other, so keeping a close eye on him wouldn't be a waste of time in the least, Theodore said, shrugging his shoulders. So are you two fine with it? It's whatever, I am sure Draco wouldn't mind either. Theodore not vow to act fair in this duel and will only use defensive magic unless the opponent uses a lethal spell against me and I am forced to fight back. Theodore, saying his vows, brought his wand down as he stared at Harry and Ron. The surrounding members of the club, who were all Slytherin second years, didn't look too happy about it, but they couldn't really go against something Draco had decided beforehand, as they now only wished for Potter and Weasley to fail. So who's going first? I am, Harry said as he walked forward, nodding back at Ron and Hermione. You know the rules, Potter, Theodore said as both of them walked towards each other. Then proceeded to bow and then walk back and start the duel. Harry threw one spell after another, while Theodore just used a shielding charm, blocking most of the spells thrown at him. Though he hated to admit it, Potter did have a way with spells, as he used even the basic spells to their full capacity, though he was a bit clumsy with its accuracy. Theodore was sure if Harry was raised in a wizarding household, his powers would probably be good enough to match his own or even surpass him. After several spells, Harry was starting to get tired, and so was Theodore, who had to cast the charm again and again. And stop. Theodore said as he brought his wand down, welcome to the club, Mr. Potter. Harry, though tired, couldn't help but feel happy, as this was the first time he had done something on his own. He looked back at Hermione and Ron, who were cheering for him, as he waved back at them happily. More so, he was quite happy about his progress than last time. The rules of the clubs are simple, Theodore said. The things you have learned here wouldn't be shared with other people outside of the club. Second, you aren't allowed to disclose information you've accidentally learned to the outside without the consent of the other party. Third, no fightings among the members unless it's a challenge to a proper and serious duel. There are still many rules to the club, but these three are the most serious ones. Right now, as you know, we have our club activities during the Defense Against the Dark Arts class, but in the coming future, when we have a proper teacher, the club activities would shift after school. Harry nodded, listening carefully to all the rules clearly. What if we wanted to leave the club in the future? He asked. That's simple. Theodore said, providing Harry with a long scroll of paper. When you join the club, you'll sign this contract that will bind you to some rules, and if you ever decide to leave, most of the secrets and things you've learned in the club would be obliterated from your memory when you choose to leave. But that's to protect our privacy and trust, Hermione, Theodore said. It might seem too much, but we can't trust everyone to keep their mouths shut in the future, and if it's any consolation, every one of us have signed it. It's your call, Potter, no one is forcing you. Harry looked back at Hermione and Ron, thinking for a while. He thought about all the things that happened just this year, and last year included. With Voldemort alive, he had to take a stand for it, so he looked back up determined. I am ready to sign the contract. Congratulations. Theodore said, passing the contract and a small knife to Harry. A drop of blood there and you're done. Harry, with a bit of hesitation, made a small cut on his index finger as he dropped the blood on the bottom of the paper, which seemed to absorb it. Soon the contract burned away as all he felt something like a bit of static course through him. Please step to the side now. Theodore said as he looked at Ron. We still have a new applicant, don't we? Harry nodded as he went back. Patting Ron, he mouthed, good luck, to him. Let's see how fair you and this club of yours is, Ron said as both of them did the ceremony and started with the duel. Theodore quickly noticed the way Ron used his spells was quite unusual for someone using such high-level spells. Some of them were dark and some of them plain offensive spells. Theodore blocked one spell after another, but every other spell he blocked his frown couldn't help but be deeper. Ron was the exact opposite of Harry. He used different high-level spells, but none of them were powerful enough to cause actual damage. The spells were getting darker and darker after each turn, but when Theodore noticed what spell he was going to use next, he quickly used Expelliarmus, going for the offense for the first time. Hey! I thought you were playing fair in this game. Ron snorted as he picked his wand up. I did, until someone decided to throw a dark spell at me. Theodore said, clenching his eyebrows. Who did you learn it from? None of your concerns. Ron said, it was a fair dueling spell, so you can't blame me for it. But not someone your level could use it. Theodore said to himself as he finally realized the pattern. Previously, when the diary was in Lockhart's hand, he suddenly got a bit powerful, and now Ron. Realizing the connections, Theodore couldn't help but smile. Is everything okay? Hermione asked. It sure is. Theodore said as he passed the contract back to Ron. Congratulations, Mr. Weasley, for entering the club. Ron snorted, looking like a proud peacock as he dropped his blood on the contract and went back towards Harry. Is there something wrong with the spells he chose? Hermione asked, though I am still surprised that he didn't use the charms I taught him at all. Well, who knows, maybe we've all been underestimating Mr. Weasley all this time. Theodore said, though it was a dark spell, it wasn't one of the illegal ones, and with his powers, I doubt he could do much even if he hits me with the killing curse itself. So when is my test going to happen? Hermione asked, shaking her head. You are already the part of the club, so you just need to sign the contract and we're done. Theodore said, besides, you were the one who created it, so there isn't any point for you take it. Hermione finally realized the point as she awkwardly laughed and signed the contract, finally becoming part of the club. Chapter 177. Krum was sitting in his room thinking about the match that took place before Christmas. Though he acted cocky and arrogant, he believed himself to still be in control, to not show much of his arrogance around people. He believed himself to be good enough of a guy to not let his anger get hold of him, but when the day that brat named Walter stopped him from taking action against the girl, he nearly lost it. Having lost several family members in the hands of Grindelwald, he resented coming to Durmstrang, to begin with, but when he had no other choice to do so, he vowed to himself that he would stop anyone from fantasizing about Grindelwald while he was there. From there he had met different people who shared the same ideologies as him and were just as against Grindelwald like he was. So they always stopped and managed to suppress anyone from worshipping the Deathly Hallows and Grindelwald alike, but just when things were fine, the girl named Arya had to go searching and snooping around about the Deathly Hallows. Though he didn't know what exactly the girl was up to, he was still sure that the girl was just another Grindelwald fanatic like so many others. He wasn't a bully, so he went up to the girl and asked her to stop politely, but the girl just ignored him and was seen several times by many trying to search things related to Grindelwald. After Arya had repeatedly not cared about his warning, including many others, he knew he had to do something. But things quickly took a turn from a single warning to a sudden duel with a second year. He knew he was being harsh with the girl, but he didn't think anyone would try to stop him, but against his expectation, the boy named Walter bravely came forward. And in his surprise, he seemed to be on a tie with that little brat, causing him to feel shame and embarrassment from his peers watching the duel in shock. After throwing barrages of insult against each other, both of them decided to end this once and for all with a Quidditch match. A 3-against-3 game. He was sure he would be the one to win from the very beginning, as he was an up-and-rising Quidditch star himself, while the other party looked as if he didn't even know the rules of the game. And the thing he was confident with was the fact that the other party didn't seem to have a third player to join the game. The girl was sure to be one of his team members, but he knew no one would be gutsy enough to fight against him. The other students were sure to not bother, and the same went for any member of the Quidditch team. Though it was a bit shameful to use this as a method of winning against a second year, this was the most peaceful way he could think of solving this issue. He was sure when the day of the match would come, the boy would ask for forgiveness and this whole thing will be over with, but he didn't expect Draco Black to be an obstacle. The guest of Durmstrang seemed to be friends with the boy as the other party took no hesitation to defend him. Though he acted fair and just, he knew it was all a facade to fool people. This caused things to be a mess as he was now certain that Walter had finally found himself a little partner of his own. He had obviously heard some things about Draco, from news to rumors, though he expected the other party to be strong. He felt he still underestimated Draco by a lot. He knew he couldn't defeat him in a normal fight, but the match contained Quidditch, the thing he knew not even Draco could beat him in. But fate didn't seem to be on his side. The match started like normal and he and his friends won the first round very easily, but he didn't expect Draco to cheat. Though he didn't know how, he was quick to notice Draco's concentration focused more on muttering things than catching the snitch. He wanted to call it out several times, but since the other party didn't have a wand and nothing had happened so far, there was no way he could prove it. Just then the snitch came closer to them and both of them started running on a goose chase behind the snitch. He knew he was close, he knew he was about to win, but just then his broom started shaking. He felt something going wrong with the broom as Draco passed by him catching the snitch. Though he was bitter about losing the match, his focus relied more on the problem his broom was facing as he didn't know what was going on. The broom soon went out of control, turning left and right and rocking back and forth on its own. He tried holding on to it but to no avail, he fell off the broom. He opened his eyes as he felt someone pulling him back up. Draco, who had caught him, slowly let him down, saving his life and becoming a hero in the eyes of many. Crumb was still shocked by what happened as he caught his broom that had just fallen down and left the field. The broom was completely damaged nonetheless, to the point where it even stopped working anymore. He opened the broom completely to check what was wrong with, to only find all the magical enhancement inside the broom burned to crisp. He was now sure that Draco had indeed cheated on the match. But it was impossible to prove so as he had no clue how he did it. He first contemplated that it could be wandless magic, but his expensive broom came with an enhancement that prevented anyone from using spells against his broom. Not even the darkest spell would make his broom go this crazy and get so severely damaged. There was still a small chance that the broom got damaged itself, but that was very likely not going to happen so randomly. He had questions he wanted answers to, but he knew he wasn't likely going to get it. Now Arya and her friends could research and fantasize Grindelwald all they wanted without anyone stopping them, as it was part of the deal, but that didn't matter now, as all he could hope for his qualification in getting in the national team, not get revoked. In one hand he wanted to confront Draco, but on the other hand, he was still a bit thankful that Draco didn't let him fall, as that fall would have really caused a lot of damage. Thankfully all this was over. It felt like another Christmas gift today as he had finally gotten accepted to the Bulgarian Quidditch team. Things seemed to not be going so well after the match, but he heard Draco had actually sent a letter to them about the malfunction of the broom, admitting to him winning only due to sheer luck, which helped clear some misunderstandings and him getting accepted. The previous grudge he held was all gone and he could finally move on. But just before he could cheer up he heard someone attacking him with a spell, but before he could react he was hit. Chapter 178. Sirius Black had escaped from prison and now the Dementors of Azkaban were on full alert, including the Ministry, one of them being the Minister of Magic, Cornelius Fudge himself. Aurors were sent out to look for him, including some Dementors who were set loose on nearby islands, but there was no result. Fudge had summarized one thing: if Sirius Black was out he will be after Harry Potter and probably Draco Black. After all, how can that deranged criminal forgive anyone, especially the one who stole his title and heirship? Fudge quickly wrote a letter to send to the Malfoys but stopped midway through since he didn't have an excuse for Sirius's escape. He didn't know if this was the right thing to do or not, but one thing was certain: not even the purebloods will be able to save him this time. "What are you doing here?" Kreacher yelled at the man with disheveled clothes, as he entered without looking at the elf. Dobby, who was given the duty to activate a magical charm if someone entered the house, quickly did so as he went to stop Kreacher. The man entered the living room and sat on one of the couch as he looked here and there, thinking how all the things were still the same. He couldn't hear his mother screaming, which was quite pleasant, but other than the elf's blabbering the man felt a sense of loneliness. "How are you doing, Sirius?" Sirius heard someone behind him as he went on full alert, quickly reacting and pointing his wand towards the boy who stood behind him coolly. But before he could react the wand in his hand melted and the couch he was standing on began morphing as it trapped his leg. To think that all this time in Azkaban and your skill is still better than a lot of Aurors is really a wonderful thing. It shows how strong the past you was. Draco said in an appreciating tone as he sat opposite of Sirius, who was growling and snarling at him. "But I am not stupid either, though the wand belonged to one of your forefathers. I did mess with it a little, so it was under my control all along, well, the destruction path at least." "Who are you?" Sirius said, still trying to get out from the couch's grab. "Let me introduce myself properly, Sirius," Draco said. I am Draco Malfoy, now black. Now you might want to listen to me first. I indeed did inherit the Black family. Since you were in Azkaban and Bellatrix was in Azkaban as well, there was no way the Black family was going to continue, so asking your mother, I legally inherited the house. Though I might have used some corrupt minister to get the job done quick, it's all legal, I swear. Why did you help me? Sirius said, calming down a bit, as the couch began loosening the more calm he was. And how did you know? It wasn't that hard to find about some things, after all, I have decent connections. Sigh. Fine, I asked my father and he told me that you had no connection with the Dark Lord whatsoever, so due to it, I already had my suspicions, and through that, I dug a bit deeper and the connection between you and all the marauders as you call yourselves. How did you know about Peter and our animagus form? Sirius calmed down further, as the crouch completely loosened its grip on him, morphing back to a normal couch again. I can't sell all my secrets now, can I? Draco said as he looked at the wounds on his body. Go take a shower, I'll leave you with some healing potions. Take a good night rest, and we will talk tomorrow. You haven't answered my question yet. Why did you help me? As I said in the letter, I need some help from you and I'll help you with your Peter Pettigrew problem. Draco stood up as he looked at Sirius carefully one more time. He had seen pictures of Sirius before, but now, unfortunately, Sirius' handsomeness had suffered due to the depression and maltreatment he underwent during the 12 years he spent in Azkaban. As a result, Sirius had prematurely aged beyond that of a man in his 30s. He had a gaunt, sunken face, waxy skin, yellow teeth, and long, matted hair. What are you looking at, kid? Sirius snarled. Glad to see that you still have some sanity left. Draco said, you're supposed to be my maternal cousin once removed, but now since we share the same surname and same house, I'll call you uncle if that's okay with you. Sirius didn't say anything at first, but after a while, he mumbled, just call me Sirius. Will do. Draco said, creature wouldn't bother you anymore, at least he shouldn't, but you know how he is, so if you need something call Dobby, he's less annoying for you. So you're staying in Durmstrang now and you need my help to stop your senior who is very dangerous. Sirius snorted. It was the morning of the next day, and now that Christmas was over, Draco had arrived back at Black House to have a proper talk with Sirius. It might sound like a joke, but I am serious, Draco said as he presented the news about Pius and the rest, including all the information he had on Ryan's base to Sirius. He's the same as Voldemort, maybe even more dangerous, but he's not as strong now, so this is the right time to attack. Sirius narrowed his eyes at the name Voldemort as he looked at the papers. Looking at the data, it was clear the person who Draco was so worried about seemed to be a big deal. Why not ask the ministry to take care of this? With Pius involved last time, I don't trust them enough on this, and besides I don't exactly have the evidence that all this is done by a bloody cripple. So what does this Ryan guy have to do with you? My body is a bit special, you see. Draco said with a hint of a lie. I accidentally became a half-Vila of a sort, so he wants to basically take over my body, and with his knowledge of black magic wants to take over the world. Vila blood? Sirius said, looking at Draco from head to toe. No wonder, I smelt something weird the moment I met you, but a half-Vila, seriously? Draco shrugged as he conjured fire in his hand as he shot it at the fireplace, lighting the woods on fire. Sirius nodded as he looked at what happened. So what do you want me to do? I want you to attack at this base here. Draco said, pointing to a map. This base is what I've concluded to be the main base of operation, and with your animagus ability, I want you to infiltrate the camp and have a go at it. Considering your skills, you should be fine there. I am weak right now. Do you really think I can fight werewolves and wizards in this state? We still have a couple of days to prepare. After all, in a heated conversation I might have stabbed the guy and made him a bit hot-headed, but you shouldn't worry as I'll be your backup. You. What do you think you can do? I am a really good wizard if you let me do my job, so basically you'll attack from the inside and I'll cause distraction from the outside so you won't have all the heat on you. And if I refuse? I'll kill you here and now, Draco said, not even flinching. Chapter 179. You think you can? Sirius snorted. Well, you might be a lot for me considering you can use wandless magic and you having your animagus form, but I don't need to do all the dirty work, now do I? Draco snapped his fingers as an elf appeared out of nowhere behind Sirius's back holding a knife to his neck. Sirius gulped as he stared at the elf he hadn't seen before, but before he could do anything the elf disappeared with another snap of Draco's finger. I see you have found some good uses for them, Sirius said sarcastically as he rubbed his neck distastefully. Quite clever if you ask me. Well, someone had to write. Draco said, but let's get serious. Sirius, that sounded weird anyway. This is the only way you have left. You're an Azkaban escapee, as far as I know still guilty and getting hunted by the ministry. Working with me is the only choice you have. Why me? You're a Malfoy by birth at least, you can get anyone to do your bidding for you. I need someone I can trust and someone disposable. Draco said with complete honesty, and you're the only one that fits the description. I can really trust you, but at the same time, I won't flinch even if you were to die. As for being the Malfoy part, I do have people working for me, but as you can see there are a lot of bases to cover. Sirius stayed silent for a while. What about Harry? Harry is safe, I can assure you that, Draco said, passing the newspaper to Sirius. The front page of the newspaper was a huge description of Draco's club that was teaching students some really harmful spell. Though the club was meant for learning, it didn't stop Rita to bash the idea of his club thoroughly, even going far as to criticize Dumbledore for it. But that wasn't the worst part at all. The main focus of the club was Harry Potter being in the club as well. Harry Potter, who was not in the best position like Draco and was already suspected of being a future Dark Lord, was now in the spotlight again. The picture in the newspaper was the picture of all the members of the club, which included Harry and most importantly Ron and the rat. I am sure you recognize your godson, don't you? I do, he looks like his father. Sirius said, sighing, but then he noticed the rat on one of the boys' shoulder. That bloody rat was something he could recognize anywhere and anyplace. Draco noticed Sirius' behavior, frowning a little at the way he was acting as if he was going to go Hogwarts this very second and kill the rat. Calm down. Calm down. You want me to calm down after seeing this? If you do something to attract attention, I am sure Peter would be aware and will escape before you can ever find him again. Draco said, like I suspected the Ministry wouldn't be quick to publish the news about your escape, as I am sure Fudge would still want to save his arse, so we have a month at most. We do my job and we will get back at yours after that. I know you want to jump right away, but I assure you, this is the only way to go. Draco continued, with Pettigrew in Hogwarts, Harry is safe under the care of Dumbledore. Sirius was still growling, but his facial expressions were calmer than before. Stay calm, we have a lot more to do, especially about you. What do you mean? I mean, as much as you want to kill Peter, the best way to deal with this situation will be to successfully capture Pettigrew and turn him over to the Ministry, Draco said as he rolled his eyes at the hyper-Sirius, who began flaring again. Now, listen to me first. You can kill Peter if you want, but that won't help prove your innocence, but turning him over will. With it you'll finally be a free man, you won't have to worry about being a prisoner on the run, but will get to live a proper life again. You really think I care about wanting to live a proper life? Sirius snorted, I'd rather kill that son of a bitch and die with him if I have to. Sure you will, but what about Harry? Draco said, he's an orphan and all alone. Dumbledore, after you being sent to prison, sent him back to his aunt's house, where let's just say he isn't leaving the dream one would imagine he would be in. Don't worry, he isn't being physically abused, but mentally he sure is. If not for his cocky attitude which helped him still stay sane, I am sure he'd turn into an obscurial, looking at how against magic his aunt and uncle are, but it did help reduce his cockiness though, which I am sure Uncle Snape would be thankful for. Sirius grunted, you knew this and didn't stop it? Draco cut of Sirius, I promise you that I didn't know of this before until I looked into it, and let's just say your godson and I are not quite friendly. We went from being friends to enemies, then back to an acquaintance in a matter of a year, so I don't know what our relationship is, but you get it, don't you? How did the newspaper get access to the information about your little club? I asked my friends to do it. Draco said, since you were taking so long breaking out of the prison, I figured this would give you enough of a motivation, though I didn't accept Harry and that Weasley brat to join in on my club, but I guess it was meant to be. You're much like your mother, Sirius said as he snorted, you know when to use people, or should I say a perfect Slytherin at least. That's a first, Draco said, so as I said, we can solve your problem in an instant, all we have to do is catch the bloody rat and we're through. You can stay and take care of your godson and I can live my life as well. So when are we attacking and how are we doing it? Leave that to me. Draco said, you just need to recover as much as possible and wait until it's time to attack the main base. That's all the things you need to focus on. How many people do you think would be there? A few, I guess. Draco shrugged, I am sure there are some guards there, but then again, since it's their main base, I think only some trusted people would be there. Chapter 180. After discussing strategies with Sirius, Draco went back to Durmstrang. He went looking for Arya and Walter to discuss his strategies with them, as now Sirius was already out. He went around the castle to find something odd. There was no one around the castle today. Though the holiday was still on and many people were out with their families, there were still enough people to make sure that the castle wouldn't be empty. Students, aside, there weren't any signs of neither the teachers nor the guards as well. This oddly felt suspicious as Draco prepared himself. He took out the wand he had hidden from his robe as he walked around carefully. He walked across the lobby through the paintings who looked at him with a bit surprised and frightened expression as if they wanted to say something but couldn't. Walking towards the end, he saw a young boy. A first-year student, whom he had seen in the dining now and then. "Are you okay?" Draco called out, but the boy just stood there looking at him. As Draco was walking closer towards him, he recognized the dazed expression the boy carried, but before he could say anything, the boy launched a spell at him. Boom! With barely an inch, Draco managed to cast a shield charm. The shield charm was incomplete, which caused Draco to fall back as he flew back across the hall. Without waiting, the boy launched one curse after another. With Draco's experience, he managed to hold back the pain as he shielded every spell thrown at him. He had just stood up a little when the attacks tripled, with two more following the boy. The two were none other than the guards that were experienced adult wizards whose attacks were heavier than the boy. Damn it! Draco grunted as he repelled back a spell, causing the boy to get thrown out. He quickly launched different explosion curses, Confringo. Though the guards managed to reflect the spell, the explosion still caused them to shake a little. Within a matter of seconds, the tide had turned and now the guards were the ones shielding. Draco frowned as the guards kept blocking his heavy attacks with a shield spell that he hadn't seen before. Quickly thinking, he raised his hands towards the guards still launching curses at them. Draco's hands started shining bright, and before they knew it, a fireball launched from Draco's hand directly launching at them. The guards, whose magic seemed different from normal, couldn't block the fireball thrown at them, as it was something more of a pure fire than magic, as one of the guards was thrown back. Soon quickly followed the second man, as he flew towards the wall, crashing into it, taking the boy with him. Taking deep breaths, Draco slowly walked over towards them, as he looked around to make sure no one else was there. The little boy started moving a little, as he looked around with a confused expression. The first thing he saw waking up was an unconscious man on top of him. Just as he pushed the man away, he saw Draco Black, the famous transfer student, pointing his wand at him. What are you doing?" the boy asked in a heavy accent, shaking a little. "Seems like you snapped out of it." Draco nodded as he pushed around the boy, looking for any enchantments he could look for. "What's the last thing you remember?" "I don't know." The boy said, a little frightened under Draco's gaze as he tried his hardest to think what he was doing. "I was just in my room and I don't remember anything after that." "Good," Draco said with a smile, stupefied. The boy fainted back as Draco sighed. He took out his suitcase and called one of the elves out. "Get them in and let them settle. Keep them in one of the sheds, tied up, and don't hesitate to use a spell on them if they try something else." The elf nodded and with the three people disappeared into the school. Draco knew Ryan would rush his plans after getting humiliated, but he didn't think he would go far enough to magically manipulate the entire school. Luckily it was still vacation and there were less than a quarter of the students left in the school. Though the teachers and guards were likely to be the cause of the problem. With the practice in attacking he received beforehand, and his improved agility and fighting techniques from his learning in Durmstrang, Draco was ready to fight, and he wasn't going to underestimate his opponent this time around. His suitcase opened, came out Starlight, beautiful and shiny as ever. "You know what to do, buddy." Draco patted Starlight as he got on top of him. "Let's go." Starlight neighed as he rushed towards the main hall, where Draco suspected the most people to be in. On the way, he zapped over 3 students, and just at the entrance of the hall waiting for him were 2 teachers and a student he recognized, Victor Crumb. As soon as they caught sight of Draco, they started firing spells at him immediately. Though several dark curses were being thrown, Draco had the advantage, knowing that they wouldn't harm him physically as Ryan wanted his body, so with enough confidence, without thinking, he let off his suitcase, from which the mad big Fluffy got out. Interesting as it was like previous, the 3 seemed unfazed as they quickly launched spells to tie up Fluffy to hold him down. Though the spell was similar to what he had used before on Crumb's friend, it seemed to be a different one, as the normal rope spell was able to hold Fluffy in place with just 2 of the teachers. Crumb came rushing at him with different spells thrown in his direction. Crumb, who was adept with his broom, summoned one as he rode off, dodging attacks from Draco. Irritated Draco started using his powers as well before more people started rushing in from both sides of the passageway. Over 20 people surrounded him, guards and students alike. All had their wand in their hand. This for Draco was a lot to handle for sure, but he had expected something of a sort when suddenly the suitcase that was open far away had elves popping out of them left and right. Though Draco didn't have enough time to train the elves, a few instructions on operating and disarming wands from people was enough for them to be fearful, especially among wizards who rely heavily on wands. The elves teleported from one place to another, disarming the 2 teachers first, which quickly led to Fluffy being free. The wandless wizards were quickly thrown off here and there like toys, though Draco was sure they had broken some bones, a few potions would fix them up. Avada Kedavra. Draco heard the ominous spell being read as one of the people in the crowd yelled. A green light flashed from the person's wand and shot towards Fluffy. It was close but Fluffy barely managed to dodge it by an inch. Starlight jumped across as he threw the man on the wall with his horn. Draco, irritated to the max, shot a fireball at Crumb's brew making him crash and then shot stunning spells all around making sure everyone was captured. Draco, though how he seemed, cared a lot about his animals, especially the ones that had been with him from the very beginning. And though the people under the Imperious Curse couldn't hurt him physically, they would certainly not bat an eye killing his animals. Draco knew it was a bad time to go soft, but there were things that he would regret if something didn't go according to his plans, which seemed to be the case seeing all the things growing out of control. Chapter 181. With heavy breathing, he looked around at everyone laying on the floor. He didn't want them waking up again, so he tied them down properly and avoided sending them to his suitcase considering how everyone seemed to be under their control. Draco couldn't be more thankful that he had a signed blood pact with Walter and Arya. Looking at things, he was sure they were captured as well. Getting Fluffy and Starlight back in the suitcase, he went towards the hall. He considered calling Sirius, but in the state he was in, he won't be able to make a difference. With his Vela power on focus, he could sense the magic around him even better as he slowly went around eliminating people. Mostly the hidden ones waiting for a sneak attack, though not many. He managed to secure all the students by now and all that left were the guards and teachers. He wondered what Karkaroff might be off to, but there was no point in bothering with him at the moment. Whether he was captured or free, Draco couldn't be bothered anymore. Walking around, he reached the dining hall, where he sensed the most magic signatures. Breathing deeply, he signaled the elves to be prepared as he walked in. "Welcome, Draco," Ryan said with a huge smile as he sat in his wheelchair at the middle of the room. All the tables were thrown out and the room was empty. Surrounding the place were the remaining guards and the teachers, while Arya and Walter were behind Ryan, under his control. Draco walked in as he looked around, thinking of different strategies. "You are truly worthy of being my rival," Ryan said. "In the short time we last met, you seem to have gained some new powers, I see. Those fire, from what I remember, seem to be a Vela's innate ability. It really makes me wonder how, but it won't matter for much longer as I'll be in control of your body. For a guy who spouts about knowing all the time, it seems like you don't know everything as well." "Of course, I don't. I only knew what he knew, and though he knew all the things he still didn't know it all," Ryan said. "That's what makes me quite jealous of you. You have all the strength he possessed. Not a single magic less, but then again it's all hidden away. You can't access it without my knowledge, so you're just another wizard with a superior body type." "I might be." Draco shrugged, "but with how things are going lately, I am fine without knowing about my hidden strengths. As long as I have time, I am sure I am going to grow strong nonetheless." "Che, annoyance." Ryan clicked his tongue. "Do you not care about these two friends of yours? One's an annoying brat and the other's too controlling for my taste. What do you think? Acting cold, are we?" Ryan snickered. "Silas." "Yes, master." Silas came closer towards Ryan as he bowed down. It was clear that he wasn't manipulated like the others, but Draco wasn't too surprised by the revelation. "You know what to do. If he wins, at least bring me his wand and meet me at the base, or else you can be prepared to serve me your head," Ryan said as he snapped his fingers. A formation below him activated and he disappeared alongside Arian and Walter. Sigh. Silas took a deep breath, stood up as he stared at Draco. "You know, kid, I have been waiting for this day for as long as you've been here. Want to kill me?" Draco asked. "Your instincts gave it away from the very first day. Though I suspected you hated me, it wasn't that hard to figure who you were working for." "Oh. It's not my instinct, it's my nature," Silas said with a grin on his face as he walked closer. His body growing larger as hair started covering his body. His shirt tore off as he landed on his feet, giving a large howl. Draco was surprised, not because Silas was a werewolf but at the fact of how he could transform midday without the full moon and without any pain. Being a werewolf was a curse, some embraced it, some had to live their whole life knowing it would be a pain. Either way, being a werewolf wasn't really the best interest of anyone. Though there were some who had some control of their werewolf form as they enjoyed their killing instincts, for those who didn't, they would rather choose to die than continue living on as a werewolf. "Surprised, are you?" The werewolf Silas said in a growling tone. From the looks of it he was smiling. "Master said you would. This is the reason why my master is superior to you." "It's interesting," to say the least. Draco nodded with a bitter smile as he knew this was going to be a tough one with how many wizards that were surrounding him. Now he had to face a werewolf who seemed to be in full control of himself and his powers. Though your master's magic is interesting, he is too weak. Do you not know how I barely stopped myself from killing you, precious little master, dog? Silas only replied with a growl, but it was clear that it was angry as he charged towards him. With an explosion charm, he blasted away Silas, but his regeneration power was something he didn't expect as he stood quickly back again. The wizards around began swinging their wands, throwing spells left and right as Draco struggled to dodge them with a werewolf chasing after him. His only chance was Norberta, who jumped out of his suitcase, tanking some of the attacks for him as a sea of flame engulfed the place, which kept Silas in check. Though he looked a bit surprised, he wasn't shocked as he knew about the possibility of there being a dragon in his magical suitcase that seemed to pop animals left and right. Boom! A couple of explosions occurred left and right as the spells attacking towards his direction as they began completely attacking blindly, not paying any attention to the fire. Just like how they had the disadvantage of not being able to harm Draco, Draco too had the same obligations. With how things occurred last time, getting people to support him, in the long run, would be impossible if more wizards were to die because of his cause, though it seemed inevitable. Especially this time when he was sure Fudge would likely be expelled from the minister's position after the news of Sirius's escape would be revealed. He was sure he could get away with killing 1 or 2 wizards, but more than that and he would have to likely live in a world of trouble. Luckily the explosions started slowing down with the elves on their work, but just then, he heard a growl above him. It seemed as if the whole world had gone slow, as the angry werewolf Silas jumped into the fire, though his flesh burned he didn't care as he kept healing. Draco's eyes widened in surprise, his mind empty. Just when all hope seemed lost, a bright light flashed across him, pushing Silas away. It was one of the elves who was in the grasp of Silas. He kept fighting the werewolf, but Silas, angrier than ever, chewed of the elf's head before he could do anything. Chapter 182. Everything went silent for a while. Almost all the wizards were disarmed and knocked out by the elves. Only the sound of blood dripping on the floor rang throughout the hall as Silas threw away the elf's head in his mouth. Draco knew something was wrong. The elf should have been able to escape. As he was finally studying the environment for the first time as the battle came to a halt, he realized his magic power draining. Not only him but Norberta couldn't spit fire anymore, and all the elves couldn't apparate anymore. I see you finally realized, Silas said in his growling voice. Let's see how you still dare to use one, your pesky little creatures now. Not paying attention to Silas's threat, he tried to use his fireball magic, but it didn't work. Then he tried using spells from his wand, but other from a few sparks nothing came. Seeing the frustration in Draco's eyes, Silas laughed heartily, similar to that of a hyena. Draco felt his remaining magic being sucked away into the ground, as he finally realized what was going on. All this time he had been cautious of Ryan's trap in Durmstrang, but he never thought the trap to be the entire school itself. He knew he had been a bit exhausted from the moment he came back to the school and the fight began, but the thought never crossed his mind as he was too busy concentrating on the might. Draco didn't exactly know what sort of magic was this, but he was sure it had to be a spell or some sort of formations which absorbed one's magic. And it seemed Ryan's loyal dog was an exception, as his healing powers never left during the fight, and even now he was healing himself. Draco looked around the hall. Half of it was badly damaged and half, burnt beyond repair. The wizards were all knocked out and the elves mortified at the death of one of their fellow elves. Sigh. You got me good. Draco said as he opened his suitcase, as he started at Norberta. Norberta, getting the sense of what he wanted to do, shook her head, but with Draco's insistent gaze entered the suitcase. Though a dragon, she was still a young one, and with her magic gone, she shouldn't be able to fly that well, as even dragons use magic to some extent to function, such as flying and breathing fire. Silas too didn't bother or stop them, as he wasn't too sure about facing a dragon himself. He signaled the elves as well, who though sadly didn't stop following his order. Draco fixed his suitcase as he closed it, staring back at Silas. Now it's just you and me. Silas said, slowly walking around Draco, ready to surrender. I admit your plan was good, but seriously draining the magic of all these wizards as well? Draco mocked. I did know your master was rash, but not so much. I mean, with my magic gone, you could have easily gotten me to surrender early on. Don't act clever, boy. Silas growled. You think you're smart, but you really aren't. You're the same as any snobby pureblood wizard, except you are foolish enough to talk to mudbloods alike. Though the magic is gone, do you ever wonder where it is being stored to? Draco's gaze tightened as Silas snorted. But why do you care? I know you're a dead man anyway. Now throw your wand and your case towards me and then surrender yourself before I have to do it for you. Come and get me, was Draco's reply as Silas growled and rushed towards him. Silas was confident that he had won, but when a potion flask came flying his way all his thoughts ran amok. The potion the moment it hit his face exploded sending him far, burning half of his face away. Though he started healing immediately, in his moment of shock and immobilization he looked at Draco running away with one of his eyes as the other one barely healed. Yes, the boy was genius at potions. Silas cursed himself for not being careful and too excited. He was already holding himself a lot not to tear up the boy's head, as his master needed him alive with it he was already enough control and much of his ability to think. Unlike others he was an advanced werewolf, he was treated with his master blood and had become something special. A werewolf that wasn't afraid of the full moon, a werewolf that could transform any time and any place he wanted and was in control of himself. Though the instinct took over time and time again, he could hold on to it but just like how they first met, Silas couldn't control himself near Draco. With his wounds healed and his eyesight returned to normal, he stood up. With his werewolf form, his keen sense of smell was enough to keep little Draco from running away. After turning left and right he quickly found out where Draco was hiding but before he could approach him two more of the same potion flasks came flying his way. Not making the same mistake as the past he carefully dodged through the spill of the potion manages to burn his legs a little. The chase which seemed to be easy couldn't be harder than imagined. A grown werewolf chasing a young defenseless wizard who couldn't use magic anymore seemed to be an easy match but not when the boy was throwing a series of exploding and a poisonous potion which he seemed to be in unlimited supply. Running throughout the school, both of them reached the famous passage. The one where the infamous Grindelwald had left his mark. Silas who kept healing no matter how many potions was thrown at him and Draco who kept running and throwing everything he had, attaching to his last string of hope were both tired. Enough. Silas growled as he dodged the potions thrown at him, and though one of them actually hit him right on his left paw and blew it off, Silas didn't stop as he slammed towards Draco throwing him off. The hit was hard enough to smash him in the wall as his suitcase slipped from his hand. He kept trying to hold on to it but he no longer could but at the corner of his eyes, he witnessed the case slipping into the wall. The wall right below the Deathly Hollow's mark. Draco eyed Silas who seemed to busy concentrating on him and his wounded leg and was sure the other party didn't see anything at all. Draco too couldn't believe anything but the truth was in front of his eyes. He knew he had a chance to escape, with his case gone he now only had one flask of exploding potions left inside his robe. You annoying prick, you better thank Merlin that I don't rip your head right off your shoulders as I did with your measly elf. Silas growled, but this time I won't make the same mistakes. Without warning, Silas jumped at him grabbing his robe by his clothes threw him towards the wall again. A loud crack sound emitted as Draco cried in pain. His arm was clearly broken in several places as his wand dropped from his hand. Silas then began whispering a certain long chant that Draco had never heard of before. Though Draco couldn't use magic anymore, he still could feel the mana concentrating in the passage as the chant continued. Chapter 183. Draco knew he had to do something as he knew whatever the spell he was using wasn't probably a good one. Draco was getting ready to use his exploding potions on Silas and try and escape but before he could dispel whatever it was shot at him but just then a flash went by followed by a loud grunting noise. It was Victor Crumb on his broom who launched at the spell and Silas blocking it for Draco and knocking Silas away. Silas angry was about to bite Crumb, who seemed to be unconscious but just when he was about to do so an exploding potion came flying his way. Silas who was under Crumb couldn't dodge the potion as it hit and exploded right in his face, blowing his face to smithers. Draco who was relived at that slowly tried to stand up to check whether Silas was dead for good or not but seeing his face recover Draco panicked. He could still see Crumb still breathing, no matter what spell had hit him, Draco was sure it wasn't fatal as he dragged Crumb along to the wall where his suitcase just disappears. The surrounding magic seemed to be going out of control which was probably the cause of the spell Silas just fired. Draco tried to enter the wall, but he soon realized the wall seemed to be malfunctioning as well. One time it opened and let one pass through while just the other moment it closed into a solid wall. Draco taking his chance seeing Silas moving he barely threw the unconscious Crumb through the wall, which he luckily entered at the right time. Draco then too passed into the wall, with the end of his robe getting stuck at the end which he tore off and crashed on the other side of the wall. The place was dirty and smelled bad but he didn't have any time to analyze his surrounding. Feeling the fluctuations of magic stopping and the wall closing for good, Draco passed out on the floor. Draco had been the most injured since he ever been with his magic gone and pretty much all the exhaustion from the fight he couldn't carry on. Where am I? Draco said to himself as he woke up in a strange place, he suddenly found himself in a strange surrounding. His hands completely fine, his original wand in his left hand and the Gryffindor sword on his right, he was laying back. Just when he was about to confirm the strange feeling of déjà vu, he heard some voices. And one of them particularly to be very familiar to the one he saw in the strange dream he had, and his guesses turn out to be correct as the red-haired women who he once saw in his dream followed by two other women appeared in front of him. They looked at each other for a while, both of them on their guard. "It seems you've been doing well since the last time I met you," the woman haughtily said as she recognized Draco. "I guess so," Draco replied, still not sure what to think of entering this dream world again after such a long time. With what was happening out in the real world, he was sure this wasn't the right time for this stuff, but he knew he wasn't getting out before he died, so there was that to focus as well. "I would ask you what you're doing here, but I am sure you're here for the treasure like everyone else." "Everyone? Oh, you didn't think you'd be the only one looking for it now, will you?" "I guess not," Draco said as he couldn't really bother with whatever the treasure in his dreams was. "By the way, do you know the way out?" "Is he kidding us?" One of the women behind the red-haired one said, "You should use your power, Hilda. I am not sure of him." The woman named Hilda wasn't the red-haired woman but the one beside her with dark black hair. She was beautiful to the extreme, the beauty which seemed mesmerizing but wasn't enough to faze Draco. But the sense of familiarity that lingered was making Draco nervous. How could it be possible? The woman named Hilda said, looking shocked. "Is there something wrong?" The red-haired woman said as she pointed her sword at Draco. "He's a Vila like me." "What?" the two women said with a surprised expression as they kept looking at Draco and the girl again and again. "And he seems to carry a queen's curse with him." "Wait. About the Vila part one can explain, but what's the queen's curse, and can you drop your sword?" Draco said, surprised by all the revelation in front of him. "I am not in a good mood right now, and pointing your sword is the worst thing you want to do to me right now." The red-haired woman snorted. She was willing to teach the boy in front of her a lesson if needed, but she was more interested in what was going on. "The Queen's curse is like a mark on a person put by the Vila Queen herself," Hilda said. "I don't mind it as much since the Queen doesn't seem to be from my clan, but you do want to be aware." Draco was sure someone wouldn't be happy with him after the revelation of the whole him drinking the valuable Vila potion, but he didn't assume he would be marked. Though the information seemed legit, he took with a grain of salt as he couldn't really trust this dream state he was in. "Wait, now that I think about it, aren't you the one bothered the princess?" the red-haired woman said, pointing her sword again. "But she said you were dead." "I am not sure what you're talking about." Draco narrowed his eyes, getting annoyed at the whole pointing the sword thing. "No, it has to be you. After all, I've never seen someone with hair like yours other than the high nobles from another land." The woman murmured, "But then again, I am not sure why you're alive." Sigh. "Just kill me," Draco said, not wanting to spend another second here wasting his time, since the only way to wake up was to kill himself. He would just do that. "Why are you so surprised? Do you carry this sword just to point at people's face? What's this all about?" The women got shocked at the sudden change in Draco's attitude as he looked at him like a madman. "My friends and families could be in danger the longer I waste my time doing this useless stuff, so just kill me so I could wake up from this bloody dream, or, this is even better," Draco said as he pointed his wand towards his neck. Shaking a little, he chanted an exploding charm. The women looked mortified seeing what he was doing, but before he could see any other reactions, he was in a pitch-black room and suddenly he woke up. Sweating and tired, he looked around to find Crumb still laying beside him unconscious as he began checking his surroundings. Chapter 184. Where did that fucker go? Silas, whose face had healed back, looked around sighing and breathing heavily. Casting that chant in his werewolf form and the constant healing had made him completely exhausted. Especially the last one, which he was sure, if he wasn't in his werewolf form, could have completely blasted his head off. He knew it was a close call. Luckily his brains didn't explode, though having your face blasted off wasn't the best feeling in the world. His new pair of eyes and face were still numb as he stumbled around looking for Draco. The curse he activated was taught by his master, Ryan himself, which was supposed to send a person's soul flying out of his body. Though he didn't know how or why, he knew it was an important cause, but now the fucker was nowhere to be seen. Silas tried another spell Ryan had taught him, which allowed him to access any door and know where someone was, but other than a few fainted students and teachers he couldn't find anyone. "Did he escape from the school?" he muttered. "Master is going to kill me if that kid got out of my hand." Silas, afraid of his life, began frantically running around the school, checking every nook and cranny before finally ending up in the same place he had started. The sun was going down and he knew he had to sooner or later return to his master. Just when he was wondering what to do, he stepped on a wand. Changing back to his human form, Silas grabbed the wand as he recognized it to be the same one that Draco had carried out with him. One of the components that his master ordered was found: the bloody wand. Silas thanked Merlin a couple of hundred times as he went back to the hall, chanting another unknown spell as he operated away from the school. Just like usual, when waking from the dream, he had the bloody Gryffindor sword back in his hand, followed by a surprising element: his wand in his broken hand. The wand still had some time till it got out of the box, but surprisingly it seemed to have teleported back in his hand. Since he couldn't move his arm anymore, he exhaustingly sat up straight as he looked around the dusty old place. Didn't know that Durmstrang had a secret room. He mumbled as he remembered what Arya had said a couple of months ago: the deathly hollow mark. She did say it was useful. Looking around the place for a while, he concluded that it was an old lab of some sort. There were books, cages and potion materials all over the place. The place smelled of dark magic all over. Though Draco wanted to explore, he wasn't in a condition to do so. He picked his wand with his other hand, trying to do magic, but it seemed the place, though away from the school, it still didn't work. Wasn't expecting magic that could stop wizards from doing magic. He mumbled sarcastically himself. He looked at Crumb, who was knocked out, and it didn't seem he was waking up any soon. Though the breathing told him that he was still alive. Draco didn't know how he got out of Ryan's control and why he shielded that attack from him. Draco was no doubt in debt of him. Draco saw his suitcase below the old moldy table as he crawled over to it, calling the elves. The elves could use their magic a little, as the suitcase was another dimension of its own, but it seemed the moment they got out the magic would dry up from them. Struggling, the elves helped Draco and Crumb inside the suitcase. Draco looked at the few students who he had knocked out before in his suitcase, wondering what he should do with them, but for now, he had several other things to do, one of them being healing himself. With the elves helping him to the potion room, he took the Skillgrow potion he had bought well before and a Wiggenweld potion he had brewed himself. Both the potion tasted disgustingly bad, but he, frowning, still drank it as he passed over at the bed. Draco had a weird dream again. He thought for sure he was in those dreams again where he was being strangled by something, but luckily it was just a nightmare as he woke up sweating and shaking. His bones seemed to have healed, and though a bit of pain was still around, he felt much better than what he was like before. Sitting up in his bed, he looked around at his potion room. He knew something felt was wrong, but he couldn't figure out what. Just then, a cold ran behind his back as he felt something crawling on his skin. Panicking a bit, he hurriedly stood up only to see a snake-like creature on his bed. Still a bit numb, he fell on the ground, as he could see the snake crawl towards him. Still a bit stiff, he looked around for his wand, but it was way too further from him to grab. The closer the snake got, the more he saw that it wasn't just another normal snake. It looked like a runespore, as it had 3 heads, and the reddish glow in its body made Draco even certain. But what was confusing was that though one of the left head was of a runespore, the middle head looked different and third head looked irresponsive and faded. The middle head was what drawing Draco's attention. It had intelligent blue eyes and horns, making Draco sure that it was a horned serpent. Then something struck him, as he looked over at the egg which he had been taking care of and feeding blood to. The egg, as expected, was in pieces, and the only thing Draco was certain of was that the thing in front of him was probably the most ambitious mixed-breed creature ever in existence. Though the creature fed in his blood for so long, Draco was sure it didn't consider him its mother, as its eyes didn't look too friendly, to begin with. Draco wasn't sure how long he was asleep and how long had the creature hatched from its shell, but it had managed to grow to the size of an adult cobra, and it for sure looked hungry. Draco didn't know what to do, but remembering how it previously reacted to his dragon talking skill, he whispered some random things as he felt the snake wrap around in his arms. He didn't know what he said over the panic, but all he heard was, "hungry." The snakes looked more patient and calm than before as it latched itself in his arm, giving him a look of familiarity. Draco didn't know how to deal with this, but he for sure knew he had to feed them before they turn unfriendly again. Chapter 185. Draco quickly called for his elves as they hurried up. "Master, you're finally awake. Why do you all look like that, and how long was I out?" Draco asked, looking in the elves' bloody clothes as he stood up from the grounds. "The people you bought you fell ill as soon as they woke up, master." The elves said, "We didn't know what happened, but they started vomiting blood as soon as they woke up and are in a semi-conscious state. That's how we got blood on ourselves." "How long ago was this?" Draco asked, getting a bit concerned. "Some woke up yesterday and some today." One of the elves said, "You've been out for almost a week now, master." "A week?" Draco sounded surprised as he didn't even realize how long he was out. Maybe taking 2 of those potions mixed with his own blood wasn't really a good idea. Though he should have only been out for a day at most, he pondered how seriously injured he was before and how long was he just dragging out on adrenaline. Thanking his gut, he returned to the now important matter. "Why didn't you wake me up earlier?" "We tried to, master, but that snake on your arm wouldn't even let us in through the door." The elf said, "We thought you had bought another creature with you, so we tried to take it away but it just kept attacking and never stopped." Yes, and its invisibility and flying powers didn't help the case either. Invisibility and flying? Draco asked as he remembered that the horned serpent did have those abilities, especially due to the jewel on top of its head. Talking about the snake, he finally realized that they were hungry enough to kill for, and he wasn't willing to risk his life now for the sake of a hungry snake. "Get something to eat for them first," Draco said as he pointed at the snake. "What should we get, Master?" "I don't know, just anything would do." Draco said, "Get some rats maybe." "Yes, Master." One of the elves snapped his fingers as he operated away, appearing with a cage full of rats again. Though these rats were mostly used for experiments, he couldn't care enough for that now. Seeing the rats, the snake seemed excited as it slithered itself out of his arm onto the ground towards the elf who was holding the cage. The elves, being expert animal handlers, knew what to do as they put the cage down and released one of the rats. The rat hurriedly tried to escape, but the snake moved quicker. No, it went invisible for a while, appearing right next to the rat, eating it. Glad that the snake was having his meal, he went out with the other elves, leaving one of them to complete feeding the snake. The next immediate matter he had to deal with were the students he brought along with them. "How many times have they puked blood?" Draco asked, looking at the pale bodies. "Only once, and that is after they've woken up." Draco looked over towards them and didn't exactly know what was wrong with them. He knew he had to send them to St. Mungo's hospital for proper treatment, otherwise they might really die. Draco wondered if the conditions were the same for the others as well who were still in Durmstrang. Draco, with weakness, a result of not eating for a week, felt a bit dizzy, but he now knew what exactly he had to do. Draco ordered one of the elves to bring him some Hodag's horn potion he had made. Making the students drink some and he himself drinking some, he opened the door towards the black house as he had the elves take the others with him there as well. With the sounds coming in, Sirius, who was fortunately still in the black house, looked confused as he came down. "I thought you were a goner, but it's good to see you're still kicking," Sirius said. "What took you so long, and who are these kids? Don't tell me they are the follower of that Ryan or whatever." "I, unfortunately, got attacked the same day I got out of here," Draco said, responding to Sirius's sarcasm. "It was quite a battle, but with some luck, I survived. Though I might kill any werewolf I see from now on." "I see, you had your fun. So these children? They were being manipulated. If you remember what I told you last time, then you see this is the result of it. I think they've been cursed or poisoned, which one I am not sure, but I am having them dropped off at St. Mungo's hospital where they can be treated." "They are cursed," Sirius said as he crouched over and looked at one of the sick kids. "It's more like a side effect of the Imperio curse when used for too long. I have seen it before, but never this serious, but good call. I think the healer at the hospital would be able to cure them." "Imperius curse? I see, so this curse is just an advanced version of the Imperius curse." "I guess so," Sirius said. "You look tattered up for someone who said they could handle me." "Well, I am sure you don't know how to steal magic from me, do you?" "Do explain." "I don't know how or what, but I am sure that Ryan has managed to build a ruin all over Durmstrang that steals magic from people. I mean, I could feel my magic growing, but the amount it took was much larger, so I was completely defenseless, and to add to the fact I had a werewolf chasing my ass." Draco said as he saw the last of the children being taken away. "I have to go." "Where?" "There are more children and teachers at the school, who I am sure is suffering from the same thing as them." Draco said, "I can't let them wait too long, as I am sure they will die if I make them wait any longer." "I am coming with you." "Why? Isn't that why you wanted me out of Azkaban?" Sirius snorted, "And besides, this isn't my favorite place to be all so cooped up in." Draco thought for a while, but then guessed it would be good to have an animagus around in case there is still someone in Durmstrang. "Fine, but just don't ask many questions," Draco said, "and go get your wand." "I have been wondering, where do you keep and going to?" Sirius asked as he entered through the door and entered into another world of some sort. "Where are we?" "I said no questions, didn't I?" Draco said, rolling his eyes as he headed towards the door and getting out of the suitcase with Sirius following him. "So, it's a magical suitcase? I remember people talking about it back in the day, but I didn't think it would be really this amazing. Maybe I should have gotten one as well," Sirius said as he walked out of the suitcase. "Too bad, the goblins don't make them anymore for sale. Only the smaller version of it is available." "Che, so this is Durmstrang?" "Not quite, I mean we are in Durmstrang, but I think we're in some secret room," Draco said as he waved his wand around, and as suspected the magic didn't work here, "so first we'll need to find a way out of here, and as you can see we can't use magic, so we'll need to find a technical door of a sort." Sirius had many questions, but seeing Draco's irritated face, he didn't want to give the other party more reason to show arrogance, as he just searched around the place as well. Chapter 186. So really no magic, huh? Sirius said with a moment of awkwardness, not sure if it was the right thing to do. I thought you were kidding when you said, it's someone stronger than the Dark Lord, but I guess not. Even he couldn't come up with such magic, otherwise we would have been screwed back then. The more I think about it, the more I want to retract my phrase. I am sure he's not stronger than Voldemort nor clever, he's just someone with knowledge of how to do things. It's like a kid who found a step-by-step coloring book with all the secrets and magic no one has ever heard of. Draco said as he searched over the shelf, hoping there would be a mechanical way out of this bloody place, though that's quite relaxing to think about. It still is a pain in the ass. So what the complete deal with this Ryan guy? I mean, how did you come in contact with him? It's like a connection from the other world, but I guess that's too vague and easy to misunderstand. Draco retracted his words as he saw Sirius's smug face, but I guess you could say that we're the two sides of the same coin, from what I understand at least. Mysterious villain, mysterious you, and our time is wasting away. Sirius said, sounding more annoyed the more he spoke as he threw the books from its shelf. If I knew how much it sucked to be without magic, I would have never wished for it when I was young. You wish to be a muggle? Draco said, coming over as he picked up an intriguing black leather book. Once, you should know about it. Sirius said, I can see that you're a bit like me and you're from a family like mine as well. Don't you wish you could just escape sometimes? Not really. Draco said as he turned over the pages, though I guess you wouldn't agree my father and mother are quite different from their past selves actually. I wouldn't claim they've become saints, but they certainly are more cheerful than they've been in the past. As for magic, I feel like I know what it's like to be without it already, so I don't need that experience ever again. So yes, you could say we're alike, except I am much more clever and useful than you. Why don't you finish your sentence? Sirius growled, and I take back what I said, we are nothing alike. You want to be a smartass. Grindelwald. What? This lab, you idiot, it's Gellert Grindelwald's. Draco said as he showed Sirius the note that had Grindelwald's name signed on it. Then, this whole place. Draco quickly went over, picking up other similar types of books, and suspected all of them were notes. Notes from Grindelwald himself on different magic. Though the curiosity in him was rising, he didn't let it get the best of him as he began shifting the books to his suitcase. A little help here. Nerd. Sirius clicked his tongue as he caught hold of a pile of books and threw it in the suitcase. You know, this could hold a lot of information on dark magic, right? After all, Grindelwald wasn't a saint. And neither is Dumbledore. Oh, come on, even though he didn't help you at all in the trial, you still want to follow him like a dog. Don't speak about him like that. Sirius dropped the book in his hand as he pushed Draco towards the wall. You still want to defend him? Did you lose your mind, or did you never have one? Draco growled as he tried to force Sirius away, but without magic, he wasn't strong enough. Dumbledore knows everything about what happens in Hogwarts. He knows some of my secrets. What makes you think he didn't know yours and your pretty little group? Dumbledore certainly knew about your animagus form. After all, he isn't the headmaster for nothing, and you weren't keeping it a tight secret, were you? Sirius gripped Lawson the more he heard as his eye looked like they lost focus. Sirius, listen to me. It wasn't hard for me to find out, a second-year student who is not even part of Gryffindor to find out. What makes you think he didn't? Draco said, for him it's nothing more than a game. A game where as long as he can maintain peace and destroy evil, he would be willing to do it all, even the dirty deeds. So stop acting as if he's the god of honesty. Though faint, I can still smell the dark magic on him, so white wizard my ass. Sirius stayed silent as he stared at Draco. We can talk about this later, but right now let's not waste any time, Draco said, but Sirius didn't let go. It felt as if he wasn't even looking at him. I know it a lot to take in, but you should. Sirius didn't say anything as his hands raised towards him. Sirius, Draco called out, but Sirius didn't stop. But unlike what he expected, Sirius reached over for something behind his back. It was another book, but unlike others, it was a bit different, as it was deeper into the shelves. Sirius tried to pull it, but no luck. Thinking for a while, he pushed the book in further, and the small vent near the entrance that Draco came through opened. I knew it, Draco said as he quickly went over and looked through it as he could finally see the other side. What made you so sure? Sirius asked. I wasn't completely sure, but I had my doubts. Draco said, as you could see with the book, some of them are for first years, so whoever got in here first surely didn't do it with magic. Though I didn't know the person was Grindelwald himself, but it made much sense that if a first-year student could find this place, it had to be quite an easy way to get in rather than complex magic. When the whole rune activated and the magic it pulled from us was used in that attack it malfunctioned, so I am sure the one who hid the place better than before was Grindelwald, who before his expulsion made a lot of changes to this place. Sirius just nodded as he saw the elves come in as well. They searched the entire place and luckily all the victims were just as they were left before, except much paler considering they didn't have anything to eat for so long, but the magic coma they were in helping them to sustain. Unluckily the sickness too had gotten worse of them. Draco went towards the hall as he saw the elves mourning for one of their own who was lying on the floor headless and dead, while still trying to pull the body back into his suitcase so they could take him to the hospital. The dead elf's body had already begun rotting. Draco wanted to do something, but since he didn't have any magic. "Help the elves, will you? I will look for a way to end this rune and bring magic back to the place." "Is it even possible?" "Sure it is," Draco said. "The rune is too powerful to activate in its own, so it certainly requires a catalyst and a holder. If I find any of the two I would be able to stop the ruin for good." "What does this, too, look like?" Sirius asked. "If I find it I'll be sure to call." "Well, the catalyst is harder to find as I've no idea what it could be, but the holder is much easier to locate as it looks like a jewel, with so much magic in it. I am sure it's bright and shiny." Chapter 187. Draco without wasting any further time went straight towards Ryan's room, hoping the holder would be there. A holder is a specific jewel used to hold magic, which can be used to power incredibly large and powerful runes. Though Draco had never done any huge rune such as this, he had still studied a lot about ruins and this was his best guess. No matter how ancient the ruin is, it would still require something to power it and hold the power it collects. Draco, as he was rushing, suddenly heard some sounds coming from Ryan's room. As careful as he was, Draco was a bit afraid. Maybe the image of a werewolf chasing you down is not the most pleasant memory, especially considering he was powerless without magic. Taking deep breaths trying to calm himself down, Draco took out a few exploding potion bottles he had refilled from earlier as he slowly went in for whatever was inside. Opening the door he looked around to find nothing, but then he suddenly heard some whispers coming in from behind the closet. Without warning, he was about to throw the bottles at it, but then two people jumped out of it with their hands raised looking a bit panicked. "Draco, it's us." To Draco's surprise, it was someone who he hadn't expected to see here. Pansy and Hermione had somehow gotten in Durmstrang. Draco, though he wanted to rush to them, he couldn't let his guard down, not sure if it was another trap of some sort. "Show me some proof. What's gotten into you, you idiot?" Pansy said as saw the caution in Draco's eyes she had never seen before. "It's us, Draco." Hermione said, "Do you not remember us?" "I know it's you two, but I still need to make sure that it's really you two. I know it doesn't make sense, but give me something," Draco said frustratedly, not knowing how to explain himself. Pansy and Hermione looked at one another as Pansy took out a familiar thing from her pocket. A snitch he had given her for Christmas. The snitch came flying towards him as he caught it midair. The snitch, as he inspected it, had the familiar marking D.B. on it, which he was sure was unique. He looked at the two of them as his eyes widened further. "What are you two doing here?" he asked as he was engulfed in a hug by the two girls. Draco, who had missed them for a while now, didn't hold back as he hugged the two girls tightly, one in each arm. "We were worried sick," Pansy said, calming down after a while. "Just as Christmas was over we got the news about a new Dark Lord in Rising as everyone went in a panic frenzy. Then there was this news about Sirius Black escaping and the minister stepping down." "Shoo." Draco silenced her as he couldn't completely understand the massive amount of surprising news he was getting. "Calm down and explain to me from the very beginning." "So 2 weeks ago, there was an attack on one of the ministry bases and words got around that a new Dark Lord was rising. Though people were hesitant to believe it at first due to the who thing that happened just during our summer break, but the information was leaked that the one behind Pius was the new Dark Lord himself." Hermione calmly explained. Then just as things couldn't go crazier, Aurors started to go missing and more information relayed over as how the enemy had taken over Durmstrang and their next target was Hogwarts itself. Though Dumbledore assured all the people nothing of that sort would be taking place, he still wouldn't disclose any information on you. And just a week ago, the minister was resigned from his seat as the news of Sirius Black escaping leaked as well. "So Fudge just resigned?" "Not only that, but he died," Pansy said. "The Aurors doubt that he had broken an unbreakable curse and that caused his death, but no one knows who to." "I see, and this Dark Lord, has he shown himself?" Draco asked curiously as he had already begun to put two and two together. "No, but with so many attacks going around everyone is sure that he's around. Even my father believes so," Pansy said. "Also we tried to contact your parents but we just can't figure out where they are right now. They are safe, Draco said, resting assured as he thought about how even he had forgotten about it till now and couldn't remember where his own house was. Good job, father. He praised Lucius secretly as he looked back at Hermione and Pansy. So why are you here? Though I don't like that man, I am certain he would protect his student from the outside force at least. Idiot. As Hermione already said, as soon as we heard that Durmstrang was taken over by enemies we were worried about you, then came the serious thing. I mean, you took what was supposed to be his, so other than Potter I was sure that he would be looking out to hunt you. Pansy said, I hate to admit it but I ran away from home to find you, but then I found Hermione who was doing the same, so we gathered together. How did you two get here then? I've been learning to drive, though it had been a hassle. Pansy said with a smirk, shaking the keys in her hand. You didn't think I was going to let you go after what happened in summer. Hermione, I know Pansy could be a bit crazy, but you should have been the understanding one. Draco said, ignoring Pansy, who looked as if she was going to throw a fuss. It's dangerous here and you running away from home, wouldn't your parents be worried? I didn't run away from home, I just got off the train when I saw Pansy. Hermione awkwardly said, I am sure they don't know, and besides the rumors in the train were too scary. Sigh. We will talk about this later, but how did you even find this place? Draco said, it's supposed to be untraceable. I was telling her the same thing. Hermione said, but we saw the school as we were flying above it and apparently we can't use magic here. Yeah. That's a long story. Draco said, how long have you two been here? We just got here as we were checking in the rooms, then Hermione found this crystal and we heard you come in. Thinking it was enemy we hid, and you know the rest of the story. What crystal? This one. Hermione took out a shining yellow crystal from her pouch. Though not much, it was still emitting its light as Draco's eyes widened. Bloody hell. Good job, Hermione. Draco said, taking the crystal from her hand, and without warning, he directly smashed it on the ground, breaking it into pieces as the shine from it leaked out. That was uncalled for, Pansy said sarcastically, but Draco wasn't listening as he tried to do his own thing with his wand. What's wrong, Draco? Hermione asked. I don't understand, this was supposed to work. Draco said, flicking his wand, but nothing happened. He was still magicless as before and no amount mana he was producing was working. Just as he was thinking what was going on, the door suddenly opened. Chapter 188. Draco quick went in front of the girls ready to attack as the door opened, but through it came a student of Durmstrang who was pale and looked sick. Draco had seen the girl before, she was one of the students who had attacked him and was under Ryan's control. Draco couldn't figure what it was and how the girl could wake up from the curse, but he then heard a series of noises outside as well. The curse they were on was with the help of a rune as well. Draco thought to himself as he quickly figured out what was happening, no wonder he could manifest all this energy into creating this huge army of his, but this is a huge help. All I need to do later is destroy the holder and I wouldn't have to worry about the people being under his control and attacking me anymore. Draco quickly went over to the Durmstrang girl as he held her before she could fall. What's going on, Draco? Hermione asked, who is she? Sigh. Since you are here, might as well tell it to you, but not now. Draco said, I need to help them first. Draco carried the girl towards the hall where his suitcase was as the girl kept murmuring some things. Pansy and Hermione looked at one another as they followed behind him, only to be shocked to see the sight of several sickly-looking pale people around. What happened to them? They were under a curse, but with the crystal that Hermione found being a holder to the rune that was powering the curse being broken, they are waking up. Draco said as he saw a familiar figure, got your hand full? They were much better to handle before when they were unconscious, Sirius said as he dragged the guy with the help of an elf to the suitcase, shoving him in it. Who are these two? They are friends, Draco said, looking back, seeing Hermione and Pansy standing there with eyes wide open and looking pale like one of the curse victims. Draco handed the girl over to Sirius. They found a holder, but it turns out to be for a rune that was controlling the curse, so now they are all awake. A rune for a curse? That's new. Sirius mumbled. Yeah. Deal with them first, I'll still be looking for the other holder and I'll let you know when that's done. Draco said as he began walking again, pulling the frozen Hermione and Pansy along with him. So where did you find the crystal, Hermione? Draco asked, but Hermione didn't answer. Was that bloody Sirius Black? Pansy said as with her eyes wide as open as an owl. Yeah. How, I mean why? Who do you think helped him get out of Azkaban? Draco said, looking smug, but the two girls just looked at him as if he was an idiot. Okay, I will explain it to you later, but that is Sirius Black and he doesn't want to kill me, from what I know at least. Sigh. And here we were worried about you for nothing. Hermione said, taking a deep breath, I missed school for you, and with the things happening in school, I don't think it was the right decision. Well, there are plenty of reasons to be worried about me. Draco said smiling, but I think it's much better for you two to stay here. After all, Hogwarts isn't as safe as you think. So you do know what is going on in Hogwarts? Hermione said, frowning a little. I kinda do, but as I said before, it isn't for you to know, at least not now. Draco said, maybe this is the right thing after all, someone has to come face to face with his destiny one way or the other. I promise I'll explain things later, but for now, can you at least tell me where did you exactly found the crystal? Sigh. I found it inside painting in the room we were just in. Hermione said, I didn't know how, but the moment I saw the crystal in the picture I realized it was not what it seemed like, and as I went closer and reached for it, the crystal just dropped in my hands. I see, I guess you're quite sensitive to magic as well, Draco said as he narrowed his eyes, or maybe it's just this place is heightening your senses. After all, there is not a lot of magical items here. And since you're already good with magic, you can sense them better. So she can sense magic better, what's the point? Pansy asked. The point, my dear little Pansy, is that I have a good way to find the holder. Draco said, you see, we wizards are unknowingly very sensitive to magic, though we don't really notice it. If you have practiced enough magic or are researching into it, you might even feel yourself absorbing the surrounding magic. And now, since we are here where the magic is being sucked out of the air itself, we as wizards are able to determine anything that is emitting magic as our body is searching for a source itself. Pansy looked confused while Hermione seemed to get the gist of it. So that's why I found the painting weird, it was because the crystal or holder was heavily emitting magic itself, Hermione said as Draco and Pansy looked at her. What? I do know a bit about runes myself. Excellent. Draco said, follow me now, will you? We have another holder to find and we haven't got all day. On the outskirt forest of Durmstrang. Can't believe I have to walk so long for a bloody wand, a middle-aged man said as he was followed by two other people, one short and bald while the other skinny and tall. Why couldn't Master just apparate us inside? George, you were always an idiot. Did you forget what our master said? The short one said, the place is damaged and we can't use magic in there. No point in getting angry about it, Tim. The tall one said in a lazy tone that seemed to match him very well, it's all that bloody Silas' fault. I wonder what Master even sees in him. Well said, Sid. George said, but we do have our chance now. Master was clearly disappointed in him after he couldn't even seem to manage to handle a kid. Genius, my ass. What use is him being a werewolf when he can't even handle a 12-year-old child? And all the excuses. Oh, but it was kinda amusing to see him making a mockery of himself. Tim said, laughing a little, poor Silas couldn't even bring a correct wand. Seeing Master yell at him and punishing him was the best thing I have seen in a while. Well, you know, as some things are just meant to be. Sid, the tall one said with a crooked smile, Silas's mistake is what gave us the opportunity to grow on top and have Master grant us with this power. I know, right, Master's power are invisible. George said, I never imagined turning into a werewolf to be such a fun thing. No more pain and only power. That's good and all, but remember, if the three of us fail the task we are sure to be beheaded. Tim said, getting a bit serious as the other two rolled their eyes, we have the same powers as Silas and there's three of us. I am not saying Silas was great, but the boy did manage to fight off werewolves like us and escape without any magic, so we know he got something up his sleeve. Relax, I am sure the boy isn't stupid enough to return back. George said with a slight snort, power or not, I can easily take care of the little brat if he comes across me. Yeah, and that is if he is gutsy enough. It's been weeks and there isn't any sign of him nor his family. For all I know, the boy is too scared and has run off somewhere else. George and Sid began to laugh heavily as George sighed until he noticed something out of the corner of his eyes. Guess he is stupid enough. Tim said as the other two noticed the thing too. It was a car that came flying in Durmstrang in front of their very own eyes. Chapter 189. It's not here. Pansy said as she got out of one of the students' room. I can't find it either, Hermione said as she got out of another room as well. What about you, Draco? No luck on my side either, Draco said sighing. Let's check the next floor. Hermione and Pansy nodded as they began heading out, but as they reached the stairs they heard some growling noises. What's that? Pansy said worriedly. It's coming from downstairs. Draco said, frowning a little. Don't worry, it's probably just Sirius complaining. You two keep checking the upper floors while I'll head down and check. Are you sure? Yeah. Go ahead. Draco, sending the girls upstairs, headed down towards the hall where the noises kept getting louder. A sudden feeling of fear crawled into the back of his mind as he walked in closer with bottles of exploding potions in his hands. These potions were a batch of something he had created way before with his blood mixed in them. Though the potions didn't change in their explosion power, their corrosive nature was intensified beyond imaginable as it could even burn through the rocks and the ground itself. Breathing deeply, his fears came into life as he saw a werewolf and Sirius in his animagus form fighting, whereas two men stood by on the side with a mocking look. The elves without their magic were useless as they stood by the side as they helped the last person in the suitcase. Sirius, though, he was fighting greatly, his strength seemed too weak against a regenerating werewolf that kept coming back no matter the damage. The werewolf pushed Sirius away as he crashed into the wall. Sirius tried to stand up but he failed as he kept growling at the werewolf. Sirius Black, didn't know you were an animagus, but it's good to finally see you out of the posters for once. The werewolf said, laughing heavily, for an escapee, you seem to be in a wrong place. He can't do anything but growl, so pathetic. One of two men said, just have him transfer into a person and ask him about the whereabouts of Black. Heard him, said the werewolf as he kicked Sirius in his guts, turn back before this turns into a torture session and we all know you're no match for me. Not as a dog, and without magic you're just as useless, so get over it. With threats, Sirius, who looked to be seriously considering something as he slowly changed back into his human form. Good. The werewolf said, satisfied, now tell me, where is Draco Black, Malfoy, whatever his bloody surname is? I don't know what you're talking about, Sirius said as he clutched onto his wand for his robe, knowing full well he was in a pathetic state right about now. Don't play games with us, Mr. Sirius. We wouldn't be as kind as the Dementors. The other man spoke, the boy took whatever belongs to you as he reigns as the heir of one of the noblest house in Britain. He took everything from you, so why are you even defending him? Come, and if he dies you'll get whatever that belongs to you back from that selfish little prick. So tell us, where is he? I don't know if it's all the fur in your ears, but as I said, I don't know, Sirius said, not even thinking about their threats and suggestions. So you want to keep hiding, huh? The werewolf said, kicking Sirius again, don't think we don't know about Draco Black and his love for flying cars. And if you weren't by his side, why help these little brats around? Don't tell me being in Azkaban has got some of your screws loosed. Fuck you, Sirius said as he began laughing, not caring about their questions. The werewolf looked at the two men, confused as to what to do. Kill him, or even better, just leave a bite. I wonder how an animagus werewolf would turn out, said the man, turning into a werewolf himself, making sure Sirius doesn't run away, and maybe we can use him to lure the genius out. The werewolf nodded as he headed for the bite as Sirius started to turn into an animagus again, but before he could, he has kicked again. Draco, who was outside, was thankful for Sirius's loyalty, but he knew he had to do something now, if not Sirius might fall under the same death the elf did try to protect him. For the first time, his legs felt so heavy that he couldn't move them, but he pushed through it. His heart beating faster and faster as he saw a werewolf closer and closer again. The werewolf, who was just about to bite Sirius, saw a boy rushing towards him as his smile grew wider. The boy then threw a pouch at him. Thinking it as a desperate attempt, the werewolf ignored it as he charged towards Draco, this time to get his master's attention. Though no one of the three would admit to it, they all had the seat of Silas in mind. Getting master's help would make them more powerful and stronger. The other two, who got the scent of Draco, turned over quickly as he did, as they began launching at him as well. The pouch Draco had thrown hit the werewolf right across his face. Thinking not much of it, the werewolf ignored it, but soon the explosion followed, getting everyone's attention. It wasn't just one bottle of potion or two, but a whole batch that exploded together. The combined explosion was big enough to cause a huge flash as it blinded everyone. The other werewolf and the man slowly opened their eyes to see what had happened to their friend. The smell of burning flesh hit their sharp noses. Sid, are you okay? The man and the werewolf ran towards their friend's body to see it half gone. Part of flesh from his body was gone as he lied there moaning in pain. Don't worry, he will regenerate soon enough, George, who was in his werewolf form, said. No, look, he is. As Tim was about to say something, a loud yell came from Sid as his body began shrinking before their very eyes. What's happening? He probably hit him with an acid of some sort, his body is corroding. He's not healing quickly enough, we need to do something, George said as he reached over, but the moment he touched Sid, his hand started burning as well as he quickly retracted his hands back. Before their very eyes, their friend's body melted in front of their very eyes. Every time his body started to regenerate, the faster the potion burned him, and soon there were just bits of his bones left. His organs, flesh all corroded away, and there was no sign of life and regeneration. He's dead, Tim said as he stood up. I'll kill those fuckers. George angrily stood up looking for the two, but they were gone. Seemed like they took the moment of opportunity and ran away. They can't be gone too far, let's go. Tim said, I can smell them. Chapter 190. What did you throw at them? Sirius said, huffing as he ran alongside Draco. Injured as he was, he couldn't just run completely fast as he could. Exploding potions, rare exploding potions, Draco stated as he finally felt free of a clutch in his heart. The fear set by Silas was finally getting free as he began thinking more rationally than before. He concluded from their little talk that all three of them seemed to be werewolves similar to Silas. So with one down he still had two to go. What about the elves? Sirius asked. Don't worry. Draco said as he flashed Sirius his suitcase, you seem paranoid. Why wouldn't I be? Sirius said, snorting, I just realized the news of getting free is all over the place, which means Peter must have known by now, and the other fact that I just saw some people turn into their werewolf form at will. I know, a shocker, right? Draco said as he rushed through one floor to another. Normally he would be heading out for the exit, but with Hermione and Pansy around he couldn't just sit still and do nothing. I hate to say this, but do you have any plans? Not really, my whole plan didn't include 3 werewolves. Hell, there wasn't a plan, to begin with. I just wanted to save these people here and... Sigh. You really remind me of someone, but I just can't tell who, Sirius grumbled. I'll make sure to tear this kid into pieces, George said as he rushed following the smell. Calm down, you idiot, you'll ruin everything. Tim said as he suddenly pushed the werewolf George against the wall as he stared at him, the kid is something Master wants in one piece. If you harm him you'll have even of a worse fate than what Sid just did. So you expect me to let go and do nothing? George growled. You and I both know what Sid was planning to do. Tim said, we have to think carefully, otherwise the kid will surely outsmart us. George calmed down as he remembered the greediness he saw in Sid's eyes before he died. What's the plan? The plan is to capture him when he expects the least, Tim said as he let go of George. Then we capture him, and with him here our task of what we were sent to do here would surely be a success as well. His wand? Yes, his wand, Tim smirked. I am sure that's what Boy is here for as well. Something's fishy, Sirius said as a frown began forming in his face. They had just reached the 2nd floor and there was still no signs of the werewolves. Draco, understanding what Sirius said, nodded. I know, but there's practically nothing we can do about this situation, Draco said as he looked back. Without magic, we are just as good as a muggle being chased down by werewolves who are nastier and more powerful than the average one. I wouldn't compliment their strength, after all, I have had a lot of encounters with a particular werewolf, Sirius said as if remembering something, but he instantly snapped back. As I was saying, their strengths aren't anything in particular, in fact it seems they find it harder to use it. That makes sense, after all werewolves are beings who are controlled by their instincts, so having sudden control would make them a bit slow as they need getting used to. Draco said, so we can at least conclude that these powers they have are new. This Ryan fellow seems too powerful, maybe we should. He isn't. And if you're suggesting Dumbledore, then I would rather die. Also, did you forget you're still the criminal who betrayed James and Lily Potter? Dumbledore didn't say a word in your trial. What makes you think he would save your ass now? Then what do you bloody suggest to do? Sirius said with a hint of anger. We go as planned, after all I have found his secret. Draco said, the spells and everything he has is unique, which I'll give him props for, but I just found out that all these powerful spells are being controlled and powered by runes. We destroy them, we destroy all his magic. You mean like the curse these kids were on, Sirius said, catching on to Draco's plan. But even then we can't do this alone. We don't have to. Draco said, I have my plans for it, but for now we have bigger things to handle. Seeing Draco suddenly stop in the middle of the hallway, Sirius stopped and looked in front of him as well to find a werewolf glaring murder at him. A chill ran down his spine as he felt another gaze behind their back as well. They were now completely surrounded. Do you have more of those exploding potions? The last one seems to have worked. I do have some, but I panicked a bit and I might have used all the better ones back then. Sirius sighed as he looked around, thinking of what to do. Without magic, even my creatures wouldn't be much of use, but maybe that can handle it. No, it's too risky to do it now, especially with me being magicless. Sirius heard Draco mumble to himself. Thinking he was going nuts seeing the 2 werewolves, Sirius shook his head as he began turning back into his animagus form once again. I can't kill the kid, but I can surely kill the dog, right? George said from afar as the other werewolf nodded. Sure, I might join you for once. The two werewolves without any warning came rushing at them as Sirius leaped over at George while Draco confronted the other werewolf. The werewolf was quick to overwhelm Draco as it pushed him towards the window in a single swing, but Draco wasn't about to give up as his suitcase opened and out came a huge dog. The dog was none other than Fluffy, the only few of his creatures that were dangerous due to their massive size rather than their magical abilities. The three-headed mutt quickly grabbed on to the head and feet of the werewolf, crashing it around the walls and tearing the werewolf apart in two in an instant. The other werewolf, who seemed not so shocked by the revelation, probably due to the information being spread, wasn't that surprised at first, but when he saw his friend getting ripped out in an instant he unintentionally froze. Sirius, who was shocked more than ever that the bloody creatures just crawled out of the suitcase he had been putting all those kids in, was terrified. But years of fighting experience didn't fail him as he quickly took the advantage as he bit the werewolf right on its throat, tearing apart. For a moment it was silent, but Draco was quick to notice the regeneration as the upper half of the werewolf in Fluffy's mouth clutched its claw onto Fluffy as he began to wail a little, shaking the head of and throwing it back in the ground. Draco knew the element of surprise wouldn't likely work as he inserted Fluffy back in his case as Sirius and he stood back and back to each other. "Why did you put that thing back in? It could be useful," Sirius said, transforming back again. "Not really," Draco said. "Other than the initial surprise attack, the werewolf would likely kill Fluffy." "That thing has a name," Sirius said weirdly. "Forget about that. Anything else in your case that could help us in this situation?" "Just something to escape for a while," Draco said as he pulled Sirius and released Starlight as the hopped on him and started running away from the scene of the crime where the two werewolves were still waking up. "A fucking unicorn, huh?" Sirius said. "By this point, I am not even surprised." "I'll take that as a compliment," Draco said. "So what do you know about killing werewolves?" Chapter 191. "Well, it usually is not that difficult," Sirius said. "Causing heavy injuries would be sufficient to kill one. After all, no matter their regenerative power, they still bleed, but these are the type I've never seen before. Ripping them in half didn't work, so I think there are only two things we could do." "What?" "Like before, destroy their whole body completely, or we should aim for the head," Sirius said. "Without the brain, I don't think their regenerative power could work." "That's a good idea, but how do we do that without magic, again?" Draco said as he looked to the side, pointing out to the werewolf who was chasing them with full strength. Draco could see that the werewolf was struggling just keeping up with them. After all, a unicorn was one of the fastest creatures around, but running inside the building wasn't the most ideal place to show its strength. The werewolf came in closer and closer as Sirius began to transform again, but Draco stopped him as he suddenly lowered Starlight's speed, letting the werewolf take over them as he rushed Starlight behind the werewolf, throwing him across the wall. Draco knew there was no point in running anymore as he stopped Starlight and got off. After all, the second werewolf was nowhere to be seen yet. Rushing in further might only lead to a trap. "You might want to transfer back again," Draco said, letting Starlight back in. "Is there something else that I should know about?" Sirius said as he began transforming back again into a dog. "Any other creatures in your suitcase?" "I do have a dragon, but it's a young one and it can't use its fire right now," Draco said, shrugging as he took out different pouches. "So, the best bet we have are these exploding potions. Though not as corrosive as the previous one, I feel if we blow up a lot together we can still get the same effect." Sirius glared at him for a while, taking one of the pouches as he ran off towards the werewolf who was waking up from the attack. Draco was preparing himself as well as he wondered where the second werewolf was when suddenly he felt a breath of hot air behind his back. He tried to quickly turn around, but he was grabbed by the throat and pushed against the wall. Gasping for air, he tried to reach the bag, but it was useless. Sirius's condition didn't look together as well as the explosion scheme didn't seem to work too well. Gasping for air, Draco struggled more and more as he could feel himself slipping out of consciousness. "Not so smart now, are you?" the werewolf said as it tightened its grip around Draco's neck. "Oh. How badly I want to just snap your neck in half, but lucky for you, you are more useful to us alive than dead." Draco just stood there struggling, still trying to think of something. He kept trying to use his Vela powers, but it didn't seem to work either. All hope seemed lost as he was thinking of executing his final plan, which was to release the seal in his suitcase and letting everything that's in there out. Though it would be a mess, it was still worth it rather than getting captured. He was just about to do so when something the other werewolf said pissed him off the wrong way. "I smell other people here," the werewolf said, dragging Sirius along with him as the burnt wound from his face healed slowly. "2 other people to be exact. Must be his helpers. Want to deal with them?" The other werewolf replied. "And is he dead?" "Nope, just as promised, George, he is all yours," the werewolf said as he looked at Draco. "Your friends, huh?" Though I can't kill you, but killing your friends in front of you as I torture them should be enough of a punishment for you, wouldn't it? That's a great idea, Tim. The werewolf smirked. I might join in on one of your schemes for once. Draco stared through the werewolf, wanting to kill him, but he could barely move. He made eye contact with Sirius, who was looking at him as well, trying to hint him something. Draco figured what he was trying to do, but he didn't want Sirius to risk it. But Sirius, being himself, wasn't the one to listen as he bit the werewolf at its leg. The werewolves were shocked due to the sudden interruptions. Draco felt the grip around his neck loosening, but he suddenly felt something else too. The werewolf named Tim kicked Sirius across the room as the bite mark began to heal, but just then he heard a whining sound. He quickly turned around to find George impaled right between his head with a bloody sword. Draco, struggling to cut through the werewolf's head, was kicked off by Tim, who was suddenly on top of him. I'll kill you. He growled, but as if Lady Luck was on his side, he saw a bright yellow orb heading towards him. The orb in the moment of darkness shined like a meteor as it crashed and hit the werewolf, completely shattering in pieces. It was none other than Hermione and Pansy, who were at the hall looking terrified as they saw Draco being thrown around by two werewolves. You bloody skanks. The werewolf growled, annoyed at them, but before he could make a move towards them he heard a familiar voice from beneath him. Confringo. The moment the chant was read, he was sent flying off as Draco stood up. Without wasting any further time he sent out several spells to bind it from moving any further. Draco, breathing deeply, stood up as Hermione and Pansy came over to his side. They helped Draco up as they stared at the two werewolves lying around and the destruction around the place. Are you okay? What is this? Why are there werewolves here, and why are they attacking you? A barrage of questions started pouring one after another as Hermione and Pansy looked at Draco with care and anger. I'll tell you, but I have got other things to take care of, Draco said, standing up. He rubbed his neck, which had a huge mark on it, as he took out an immediate healing potion and drank it. Get inside, Draco said, pointing towards his suitcase. Hermione and Pansy were about to disagree, but the sternness in Draco's voice didn't let them as they quietly entered inside the suitcase. With both Hermione and Pansy knowing mostly what was inside, Draco could at least be carefree about them. With his wand back in hand, Draco walked beside the two struggling werewolves. One was trying to get out from the rope it was tied to, while the other was struggling to even move. As Sirius suggested, with the brain impaled, the werewolf didn't seem to move much, but still, their regenerative power was quite commendable, as it seems even the parts of brains could be healed. Are they dead? Sirius said as he looked at Draco bleeding from his head. Not quite so, but with magic back in this place, I don't think we will have the same problems, Draco said as he crouched over. Are you okay? I have seen better days, Sirius said as Draco laughed. He took out one of his special healing potions as he fed it to Sirius. What are you? Madame Pomfrey? Why does it taste so bad? Sirius slowly but surely fell asleep, complaining as Draco used magic to carry him into the suitcase as he looked back at the two werewolves with an evil glint in his eyes. So you guys were saying. Chapter 192. You're back. Hermione and Pansy came closer towards Draco, seeing him get down inside the suitcase dragging two people with him there. Are they the werewolves? Pansy asked as Draco nodded. Enough about me, are you two okay? We didn't do anything, of course, we are. Hermione said as she caught hold of Draco's ragged robe. There were several holes throughout his body and countless bleeding cuts. Oh, these are just something minor, Draco said as he took out his wand and wrapped bandages all over the place as he looked at the two girls looking at him in concern. I know I have a lot to explain, but first we need to get out of here. Pansy, can you give me the car keys? Pansy nodded as she passed over the key. Do you even know a way out? Don't worry, I am pretty good at these things. Draco said, follow me, I'll lead you to a place you can rest. We can do it at the shed. Hermione said, pointing at Draco's lab. That, well, it's kind of occupied right now. Draco said, remembering the bloody three-headed snake. We still have to get Sirius to a proper place as well. So just follow me. Saying that, Draco leads them to the door, in the middle of nowhere, which seemed to lead to no place. Hermione had always been curious about that one door, that just sat in the middle of the place and seemed to serve no purpose. To their amusement, Draco went over and knocked at the door a few times and opened it. The door seemed to lead to another room both Pansy and Hermione had never seen before. Dobby! Draco called out as an elf tumbled its way out as quickly as it could. Lead the guests to guest quarters and take care of them. Yes, master. Dobby said as he waited for Pansy and Hermione. What is this, Draco? Where are we? Oh. I forgot. Draco said, "Welcome to the one and only Black House. So, this guy after you is like a rune genius?" Hermione asked, trying to find a way if she could help after hearing Draco's side of what was going on. "Yes and no," Draco said, laying back in his couch. "He is more like a magical genius, but since his body doesn't have enough magic to support his new magic, he uses runes as a way to control those magic." Sigh. "And why were you hiding these things from us?" Pansy asked as she crossed her arms. "The same reason why my parents are in hiding. It's too dangerous." Draco said, Now, I know the whole we're friends and we shouldn't keep secrets from each other and stuff. But try to understand my perspective on these as well. The guy I am fighting knows everything about me and knows everything about you as well. And so Hogwarts was the best place for you in this fight, and I wish you two will return back." "Return back? Are you kidding me?" Pansy stood up. "You nearly died, just today. What's going to happen when you face him?" "If I die, you can be sure that we will all be dead." Draco said, "He's likely to not spare my friends. But I have my own way to fight and my calculations don't include you two joining the fight." "How sure are you that you're going to win?" Hermione, who was much calmer than Pansy, asked. "I was about 60% sure I could win before this incident, but with me now figuring out the basis for magic my chance has increased to 70%. "Only 10%. "Yes, though this is a big breakthrough, I can't completely underestimate the guy. After all, I've seen enough." "Why are you so insistent on fighting alone?" Pansy said, getting a bit frustrated, "And Hermione, you should be the one stopping him, not me." "I mean, why?" "Because I am choosing to trust him, this time." Hermione said, making Pansy silent, "But I too won't go, until I am sure you're not alone fighting this thing." "Who says I am alone?" "You mean Sirius?" Hermione asked. "You two are still not enough." "Yes, but I might get a little help from our potion teacher." Draco said, "And I am of course the heir of one of the richest families, so you two are quite underestimating my influence." "What about the werewolves?" "I might have a way to get help from their natural enemies." Draco said, "Trust me, in this fight you're better back in Hogwarts than here. I've already sent a letter to Dumbledore explaining about your conditions and he is completely fine with it as long as you guys return back." Sigh. "Fine." Hermione said, standing up and hugging Draco, "I hope you know what you're doing." "I know." Draco said, smiling a little as he looked at Pansy, "You don't mind me borrowing your car now, do you?" Pansy looked a bit annoyed as she didn't answer. Draco just smiled, walking up to her and pulling her in a tight embrace against her fights until she stopped fighting back. Chapter 193. "Ah. Young love, so annoying," Sirius said as he watched Hermione and Pansy leaving for Hogwarts alongside Snape, as Draco sat in the same place quite with a bitter smile on his face. "Oh. Finally decided to come out of hiding?" Draco asked, snickering as he turned back. "Are you really that afraid of Professor Snape?" "Afraid of Snavelis? Me?" Sirius laughed. "I survived Azkaban, do you think I'd be afraid of him? If you have forgotten, I am a wanted criminal that's on the loose, and I can guarantee you that the moment he notices me, he will do everything in his power to send me back, even if it meant exposing our little charade. And I think we have already got enough on our plate right now." Draco just laughed and shook his head as he took out the letter Snape gave him. Sirius didn't think much and decided to look to see a family picture. There was Draco sitting in the front with Lucius and his cousin Narcissa behind Draco holding two babies. "Aren't they cute?" Draco asked, looking at the family portrait. "They're not even a year old." Sirius didn't reply as he shook his head. "So why send a picture to you now? It's not going to be of any use, is it?" "Of course, it is," Draco said, walking towards the fireplace as he threw the picture in. Sirius watched the picture burn as a lot of smoke began building up, when suddenly an image formed on the smoke. Sirius obviously recognized the face as he watched what the figure had to say. "Draco, according to the plan we've gone into hiding, but we want you to come back as well." The image on the fire, who was none other than Lucius, said, "Since we're in hiding we don't have access to outside information as well, but as far as we know, all hell's breaking loose. Your mother's worried sick and so am I. Though I want you to come back, knowing you, I am sure you wouldn't, so other than providing you with help, I can't help you anything else. The few of my men who are trustworthy are gathered in our usual base, you can use them how you want to. Also, you have another trouble following behind you. The Vila Queen, from the forest you were in, wants revenge. I tried to find information on her but couldn't, as the men I had sent after her, turned out dead one after another. The Vila Queen isn't so simple after all. So I want you to watch out for her as well." And last but not least, stay safe and come back alive. At least, for your mother. Well, he's less annoying than I remembered. Sirius snorted. Turns out the big bad Death Eater cares about his son as well. After the twins were born, my father has gotten soft, if you will. Draco said, not minding Sirius's tone. The Malfoys care about themselves more than anyone, and this time, as you can see, we care about each other as well. Sirius rolled his eyes, not wanting to hear any part of it. So what is this new enemy again? Oh. The Vila Queen is likely after me due to a very interesting reason. Draco said, as you know, I am a half Vila, but obviously I wasn't born this way. So long story short, I might have drunk a valuable potion that belonged to Vilas to turn myself into one. Are you serious? No, you are. Draco laughed. Well, if it's any consolation, I didn't purposefully drink it, instead it was some who wanted to save me, and that's exactly who can help me with this situation. You seem calm for someone who has a new enemy every other day. What can I say, the experience I had just within this year, doesn't even surprise me anymore. Draco laughed as he took out ink and paper, writing a letter to his dear vampire wife. Draco was sure that if anyone could help him in this situation, it was her and her family. Sirius didn't bother with him as he sat back on the couch. So how many men do we have? We should have at least 30 wizards at our disposal. Draco said, we used to have 100, but I guess, they weren't as good as I thought they were. So the Malfoys were building a wizard army themselves. Did you plan to rebel? Not exactly. Draco said as he shrugged his shoulder. With the help of my brilliant mind, our sales in the black market increased a couple of years ago. If I remember correctly, I was still 8. And after that, we decided to hire mercenaries to do our bidding for us. The business turned out so well, that my father ended up buying the mercenary company for himself and using them to our advantage. If the ministry finds out, you're sure to be doomed. Sirius said, even if I was found to be not guilty, if I get caught with you, I am sure they'll pack me back to Azkaban once again. Seeing Draco not respond, Sirius snorted and continued, I know of someone who can help us. Who? One of the marauders. Sirius said, you should know him. Well, one is dead, the other one's a rat. Then there's you. Are you talking about your werewolf buddy, Lupin? Draco said in a monotone voice, not looking up at Sirius. Sirius didn't have smiles on his face with the mention of his dead friend as Draco looked back to him, seeing the other party silent for too long. Sorry, forgot the topic is stingy to you. Draco apologized, but Remus Lupin, I don't know much about him, but are you sure? I mean, the man can't even control himself during the full moon, and not to mention the fact that he thinks you're the informant of Vold and a criminal. Humph. He's good and trustworthy than any of your so-called mercenaries. Sirius said with a snort, also, I am sure that with the same explanation you gave me, we can convince Lupin that I am innocent. Sounds like a plan. Draco nodded, fine, I'll have my men look out for Lupin, but if we can't find him within a week, we have to do this by ourselves. Otherwise, the longer we wait the bigger his army is likely to get. Chapter 194. In this bloody place, really? Sirius complained as they sat in an old rundown wizarding pub wearing cloaks that covered their faces. Who thought he would come here to live after all that happened? Well, when 2 of your 3 best friends are dead and one is accused of killing them, I am sure I'll be living in this shithole as well. Draco said as he rolled his eyes, sipping on some weird-tasting butterbeer. So how do you want to confront him? I don't know, Sirius mumbled as he kept his head down. I thought you were the genius here. I am. That's why I managed to find him and get him to meet us. Draco said, a lot of hard work, you know. But what I am concerned about is how his reaction is going to be when he sees you. Sirius Black, the person whose wanted pictures are all over the wall even in this rundown pub. When the time comes, I'll do it by myself. Besides, how do you even get him to meet us? Easy, this thing here is what you call a wolfsbane potion, Draco said, taking out a vial of potion. It was invented when you were in prison, so you might not know about it. But basically the potion here does not actually cure lycanthropy but eases the symptoms, allowing one to hold on to their mental faculties after transformation. It renders the dangerous beast into an ordinary, sleepy wolf, if you will. So you lured him out with this? Yes. It's an expensive potion, so I am sure your friend will not be able to afford it. Draco nodded, so I sent him a letter, proposing a job for him where the salary would be paid in wolfsbane potion. And you think it's enough to get him out? Oh yes. Draco said as he folded the documents. From the information my men collected, your buddy was so desperate for the potion that he even went back to the Forbidden Forest back in Hogwarts to get some ingredients for himself. I see. Sirius took a deep sigh as he turned his head towards the pub door. Just then they heard a loud thud on their table as Sirius and Draco turned to look Remus sitting on their table smiling to them. Remus was a man with a pale face and premature lines, and light brown hair along with some grey hair here and there. His clothing was consistently shabby and patched, clearly showing the harshness of what being a werewolf was like. "Gentlemen, thank you for inviting me," Remus said. "Before we get started, I'd like to know your identity. After all, you knowing about my issue makes me a lot curious about you too." "Sure," Draco said, not getting too fazed as Sirius. "I think this will tell you everything." Draco handed a load of documents to Remus as he sat back on his chair waiting for Remus to read it. "You must understand that some things are better left unspoken, especially in this place." Remus looked at the hooded Draco, who he assumed was the boss, but from his voice, he didn't look to be that old, and at the hooded Sirius, who was just staring at him from beginning till end. Remus sighed as he himself didn't know why he thought meeting strangers was a good idea, but now that since he was here he might as well see what the two had in store for him. Remus carefully and slowly read the content in the document, his eyes getting wider and his hands shaking now and then. Turning to the last page, Remus kept the newspaper down as he looked at Draco for a while. "Is this all true?" Remus asked with a whispering tone. "Yes." Draco nodded. "I could show you more proofs, but this is all I can get right now. So now the remaining question is, do you believe me or not?" Remus sat silently for a while as he glanced at Sirius, who still hadn't gotten out of it. Through the hood covering his face, he glanced at his old friend for a long time. "Asking me to believe two hooded men who can't even show their faces, is asking a bit too much, don't you think, Dot?" Draco contemplated for a while, as he slowly removed the hood. "Oh. I knew you were young, but I didn't expect you to be this age," Remus said in a bit of a shock. "And the prince, if I may." "No, you may not," Draco said, sliding his hood back on. "So I assume you've read all the information on the paper, so what do you think?" "I believe that it is 80% true, but my question is how and why are you so interested in it?" Remus said, "From what I know, your family has been missing for a while now, and with the minister changing, I am sure this incident has nothing to do with you." "But it is," Draco said as he turned to look toward Sirius. "Obviously, I have some question in connection with your friend." Remus looked at Sirius and Draco again as he realized who the other person was. "So what's to say that all this isn't a lie and you're here to rope me into this scheme of yours? As you said, the outside world is a bit chaotic right now, so this is all I can get for you right now, but soon after this thing clears up, I can provide you with more evidence," Draco said, "and maybe a chat with your old friend might clear things up more." Remus looked at Sirius deeply with a frown as he shook his head. "I'll hear you out, but if I find a single lie in what you say, I will immediately reveal your disguises and let everyone know who he is here," Remus said, signaling to the witches and wizards around the pub, who didn't look to be so good of a people from their gazes. "You understand what I mean, don't you?" "Sure." Draco nodded. "So how about we leave? You can apparate us to any place of your choice." "No questions asked." Remus nodded as he put his hand on both Draco and Sirius's shoulder as they apparat, leaving a galleon on the table. "You stay here," Remus said as they apparat into an old shabby room, while Remus and Sirius and he again apparat away to somewhere else. Figuring they wanted to talk privately, Draco didn't bother as he sat down on an old rugged couch. Draco turned open pages of documents that contained pictures of different destroyed ministry facilities and reports of many missing wizards and witches from the newspaper. Draco knew that it was now or never. Whether Remus was involved or not, he would have to attack soon, or else the other's army will keep growing and he would be far too late. Chapter 195. "So what do you think?" Draco asked, seeing Remus and Sirius return. "I guess from the fact that you two didn't kill each other, we're good, aren't we?" "Yes." Remus shook his head. "But this thing we're fighting against, how can you be sure to defeat it? As they say in Muggle terms, a good magician never reveals his secret, but our old friend did." Draco said with a slight smile. "We just have to find some holders, destroy it, and we're good." "Easier said than done." Sirius crashed into the couch. "Just two of those werewolves gave us a bloody hard time." "Yes, but that's because I didn't have my magic." Draco said. "I am sure you could have done a much better job too." "Oh. Thanks for the consolation, dear Prince." Sirius rolled his eye but suddenly turned serious. "Do you think we can get whatever magic they are using to help Moony?" "You mean the werewolf thing?" Seeing Sirius nod, Draco continued. "Sure, but there are certain chances that we might not be able to as well, so I wouldn't pin my hopes on it if I were you." "It's okay. I am just curious." Remus said, from what I've heard from him, the magic that allows you to transform whenever and wherever sounds too good to be true. Draco nodded, well, it's better to see it for yourself than for me to tell you. So are you in or out? Hogwarts. Hermione. What were you thinking? Harry asked with concern, I didn't expect you to skip school and go out on dangerous adventures. Sigh. Don't talk about it. Hermione said, shaking her head, Professor McGonagall has been giving me enough looks of disappointment. So I hope you guys won't start doing the same as well. So did you find Black? Ron asked after a while of sitting there silently. I heard from Father that he could be in loads of trouble after Durmstrang suddenly got attacked. Well, he's fine. Hermione said, looking out of the window, if all things go well, he should be back before school ends. That guy is really something. Harry said with nervous laughter, he's probably fighting something big out there like last time, and here we are stuck with the same problem for such a long time. Wait. Did anyone get petrified? Yes, 2 students during Christmas. Harry said, it was a good thing you were away, as at least they won't blame you. Are they still doing it? Harry helplessly shrugged as Ron said with a snort, well, most of them still believe Harry is the cause behind it because he could technically be a Slytherin heir, but I am sure if Black was here they would blame him instead. And I am sure if there were any other stronger people out there, they would blame them as well. Hermione looked at Harry with a confused stare as if she was saying, when did Ron begin sympathizing with Draco? Harry, understanding Hermione, gave out a bitter smile as he said, Ron's been getting quite good with spells these days and he thinks someone is suspecting him to be an heir as well. So I think he's sympathizing with the strong. I don't just think it, I know for sure. Ron argued, I told you, my closet, bed, suitcase, everything had been tampered with as if someone was searching for something. How did you find out about it? Hermione asked, not taking Ron too seriously. I have been placing some spells on my stuff so I would know who touched them. Ron said with a bit of annoyance, seeing Hermione's skeptic look, someone special taught me the spell. And besides, I am not going to stay the same forever. I have to grow stronger as well. So do you know who could have done so? Theodore not, Ron said, he hides it well, but I know it's him. Theodore? Hermione asked, Ron, I am sure there is a misunderstanding, and I mean, just because of a little rivalry between the 2 houses, it's good to blame everything on him. I am not doing so because of it. Ron said, every time we enter the club, Theodore only pays attention to me. He won't allow others to duel with me and would only be my opponent. Though these days I am beginning to overwhelm him a little, he still annoys me. I can say for sure that he's keeping an eye on me. I'll talk to him. Hermione said, frowning a little, not because of Theodore's actions but for the fact that Ron felt different from before. It felt like he changed completely into a new person within Christmas. Don't worry. Ron said, it's not worth the time. Once I master the few spells I've been learning, I'll be sure to teach him a lesson myself. Okay, forget about this for now. Harry said as he looked at Hermione as if he wanted to confirm something. Hagrid's been calling me, wanna come with me? Sorry Harry, I have a bit of work to do. Ron said as nodded at the 2 of them and began walking out. Say hello to Hagrid from me. Tell me that it isn't only me. Hermione said as Harry nodded. It isn't only you. So he's fine? Theodore asked. Yes, for now at least, Pansy said, remembering the scene from Durmstrang, the werewolf chasing Draco down. Pansy sighed, but I am not sure for how long. I think I should head out as well, Theodore said. Don't. Remember what Draco told you? Daphne reminded, we need to stay here and solve the goddamn thing that's been haunting us. Look, I know how you feel, okay? When I saw Pansy and Hermione rush towards Draco to find him, I wanted to do the same as well. But I told myself that I need to believe him, and that's what we should do as well. Fine. Then I am going to hunt down that basilisk and then go after Draco. Theodore said with a resolute tone. But unknown to them, someone walked behind them. What basilisk? Chapter 196. What basilisk? Harry asked as he and Hermione entered. You know, just because Draco doesn't mind you entering our common room, doesn't mean you can pop up anytime you like, Theodore said a bit rudely. The common rooms have passwords for a reason, you know. I apologize. Hermione said, coming in front, I just wanted to talk to you about something. If this is a wrong time we can come back later. It's okay. Pansy said to Hermione, don't mind him, he is just a little pissed right now. Hermione nodded as she awkwardly smiled at Theodore. So what is so important? Theodore asked, taking a deep sigh. It's about Ron. What about him? Daphne asked curiously as Theodore listened with his ears perked up. Ron's well, he's different, Hermione said as the uncomfortable Harry pulled her. No matter what was wrong with his friend, it felt weird talking to people who he could barely trust. It's okay, Harry, sigh. You see, Ron's been completely different from what he was before. It felt like he was a completely different person within this Christmas, and even Harry, who has been with him all the time, thinks so as well. Harry nodded as he sighed, but I am sure you're quite already aware of that. Harry turned to Theodore. It's not only Ron who has noticed but me too. It seems you're quite interested in Ron as well. Theodore shrugged. Sorry to burst your bubble, but I don't swing that way. I don't mean that. Harry said awkwardly. You know what I mean. Every time in the club you're the one who picks on him. Theodore didn't reply to Harry as he turned to Pansy and Daphne. You want to get over this mess, right? Theodore, you mean? It's Weasley. Theodore said, I have suspected it for some quite time now, but after Christmas, I was more certain than ever, especially now Hermione and Potter over here has confirmed it. What is going on? Harry asked aloud, seeing them ignore him as Hermione looked a bit confused. I can tell you, Hermione, but not Potter. Theodore said, I can't have him spilling secrets. I am bound to your stupid contract of the club, Harry said, a bit frustrated. The more he stuck around everyone, the more he had begun realizing that everyone was hiding things from him. Most of it, he didn't care, but secrets about things related to him and his friends were the ones that bothered him the most. Fine. You want the truth? Here it goes. Theo. Pansy, it's better if he knows. Theodore said, after all, the destiny belongs to him. A destiny I am sure not even Draco can break. What are you talking about? News flash, Potter. Voldemort's alive. I know. Harry said, I fought him last year and Dumbledore said that he's not completely gone. Good, then this makes it easier. Your dear girlfriend Weasley is possessed by Voldemort and is leading into the dark side. Hermione, is it true? Harry asked, not believing Theodore as he looked at the silent Hermione. I know someone was possessed, but not Ron. Hermione said hurriedly, Harry, you've got to believe me. I only found out about the whole thing when I was away. But if this is true, then it all makes sense. So when were you planning on telling me this? Soon. Hermione said, this thing has something to do with you and with how things have been. Draco himself told me to tell you about it, but only when I could be sure that it wasn't you that possessed. What makes you so sure that I am not? Because you're still weak. Theodore answered, gaining strength is hard, but not hard for people like you and me. Look at us, everyone in the club to some extent has some hope of being the strong wizard we all dream to be, but you're different, Harry. You are like me, like Hermione and Draco. We have the strongest potential in all the kids of our year. I am sure with some training you could be better than even me. Better than Draco? No. But it's possible if you fall under dark arts. Getting strong will be a piece of cake. Stop twisting the topic and get to the point. Why Ron and not me? Calm down, I am not trying to pull you under the dark side or anything like that. In fact, I prefer you to stay the dumb you forever. Theodore said, but this is all important. Just as I said with dark arts, one can be stronger within a month if he has the right tutor. You see, Ron is not like us. Sorry, Hermione, to say this about your friend, but Weasley is weak. At best, he would be a normal wizard, and if he tried his hardest he might best be compared to a low-level auror. But that's it. His potential is not as good as us, for him to get to my equal within a matter of weeks. The spells he uses are dark. Draco warned me of this, but I never thought it could go this far. I am sure even he would be surprised. Theodore said, your friend is in deep trouble. Not only is he using dark arts, but is using some sort of spell to increase the power of his magic. And last I checked, only dark magic is capable of doing so. So you think Ron is possessed by Voldemort because he is stronger now and has surpassed your expectation of him? Harry asked, getting a bit angry, or is it just you feeling sad about yourself knowing Ron is way stronger than you? Sorry to burst your bubble, Potter. Theodore said calmly, if you have any idea on why he can use dark magic and is strong, please go ahead. His family is full of wizards like you. Harry said, not giving up, and from what I know is quite old, so why can't he have some secret spells and magic to make himself stronger? And you use dark magic yourself too. I have seen Draco use it. Yes, but we are dark families, Potter. You can just walk a step in my house and find books and items related to dark magic all over the place. Theodore said, but from what I remember Weasleys don't associate themselves with our kind. And I am quite certain, that even if there were any such books with the Weasleys they would have already sold it to meet their day. Enough. Hermione and Pansy said at the same time. Theodore, telling him this a bit nicely would be better, don't you think? Pansy said as Theodore rolled his eyes. Harry, I know it's hard to believe but we can't let Ron go on like this. Even if there is a little chance that Ron is involved in this somehow, it's going to be really bad. Hermione explained. But Hermione, do you really think Ron would follow Voldemort? I mean, he still shakes whenever he hears the name. I never said Weasley knows about Voldemort, Theodore said pouring himself some juice. Draco told me that Voldemort will be under an alias of his previous self. Or more like the thing possessing him is a younger version of Voldemort. Does the name Tom Riddle ring a bell? Like a statue, Harry froze as his eyes opened wide looking at Theodore. Chapter 197. I saw it. Harry said, in the diary that Ron has been carrying these days. Guess we all can be certain now, Theodore said as he waved his wand and shut the door. What are you doing? Harry asked feeling a bit uneasy. Though I want to trust you, Potter, you know it's hard for me to do so. Theodore said, we need a solid good plan to take that diary back. If Ron gets the wind of it, Voldemort will too, and that's not a risk I am willing to take. I want to help Ron more than you do, Harry said backing off step by step. Don't do anything stupid. Hermione. Obliviate. Theodore casted the spell as Harry froze in place, and as if nothing had happened he simply turned back and walked out the door. I knew learning memory charms was a good idea, Theodore said as he put his wand back. Was it necessary? Hermione asked feeling a bit wrong about what just happened. I know Harry wants to save Weasley, Hermione, but unlike us, he's sure to bring an emotional aspect to this whole plan. Theodore said, though I might have been impulsive but I am sure it's the right thing to do. After all, can you assure me that Potter won't tell these things to Ron by any chance? Hermione stayed quiet knowing full well she couldn't guarantee that Harry wouldn't do such things. After all, Ron was his first friend and she knows full well how these things can cause Harry to be too emotionally involved. Sigh. Fine, but what are we going to do now? Give me 2, no 1 week and I'll come up with something to lure and trap him once and for all. Theodore said with a smile, seeing Hermione not bothering him about the charm. Also, whether I like it or not, Potter is an essential part of destroying the diary. Bang! Bang! Several explosions rang out throughout the forest, as several bright lights could be seen flaring here and there. Doesn't this remind you of the old days? Sirius said, turning back to human's form, his animagus form, as he shot a spell that blew the head of one of the werewolves. I don't recall fighting undying werewolves and wizards. Lupin said as he casted a shield spell and hitting the wizard attacking him with a stunning spell. The wizards and witches are all done. Only the werewolves are remaining. The werewolves are nearly done too. Sirius said, now we just have to make sure they don't revive again until we find the catalyst. Throughout the battlefield, many wizards could be seen knocked out while wizards in black clothing could be seen fighting werewolves as they gathered the dead ones in a single place, a ditch filled with harsh acid that kept burning the werewolves as they regenerate. It sure is a good idea. Lupin said with a sigh as he watched the medium-sized dragon burn and throw werewolves in the ditch, having a dragon and all. Well, that one seems to be under control from what the kid told me. Sirius said, to think someone's living my childhood dream. Looks like he's got the holder, Lupin said as he watched Draco jump out of the building on top of a unicorn, landing gracefully with a floating spell as he destroyed the crystal in his hand. Finally it's over, Sirius said watching the werewolves get melted off in the acid bath, not regenerating anymore. But we can't go much further like this. I guess, we don't have to worry about that. Lupin said pointing towards Draco as the crowd of black-robed wizards surrounded him. Sirius took a deep sigh as they walked towards him. We won gracefully and as planned. Draco declared, still on top of his unicorn, as the men around him cheered. This achievement of killing such creatures would surely be written forever in history, and I thank you all for being a part of it. But this isn't enough for a celebration. Thanks to all of you, we've managed to defeat all the bases of our enemy and destroy them, and in the process, we managed to rescue our fellow wizards and witches who had been under the control of our enemy. But we've one last enemy remaining, one last base, and as you might have already, it is going to be the most difficult mission we have done till now. It took us 10 whole days to destroy 6 bases, but this final base is going to be difficult, that all 6 combined. With the time we took, the enemy is surely aware of our strategies and have certainly begun increasing their defenses and offenses. And honestly, even I don't know what might be in store for us. These unbeatable werewolves might just be the least of our concerns. The crowd was silent as Draco took a deep breath. 3 days. I give you all 3 days to replenish your energy and get back to your original strength for our final battle. Sir. A man in black robes came forward as Draco nodded at him. 3 days are certainly enough for us, especially with the help of your potions, but I am afraid we are lacking in men. The man said, the remaining of us who stayed were already less in number, and in these battles, 7 of them passed away. The casualties would have been much worse, but thanks to you we have managed to decrease it by a lot. So what do you suggest we do? Draco said, as far as I know, the wizards and witches who are willing to fight are already low in number. I am not sure we can find backup now, especially at this moment. Who said you were going to be alone? A familiar sounding voice sounded throughout the area, as a group of men covered in red hoods came towards them. Hiatus dropped.